Hello.
Alright, we up, right?
Yes. Here we
Alright.
are. We do be
So-
out here.
We typically do World of Darkness content, werewolf and vampire specifically. We're due to branch into Hunter the Reckoning soon, but I was going to do a short episode for Daylight Savings Time. I messed up when the time change was. So we already scheduled this episode because I thought we were going to do something short for 2 hours. I got the date wrong. The time change was last night, so now we're just doing this anyway.
Yes.
And this has been part of an ongoing argument I've had with people whenever D&D comes up. To prove my point, Ryan, reiterate that story you were telling me earlier about your favorite memory in D&D 5e. Preferably when you're not muted in Discord.
Man's always muted.
He is.
Yeah, sorry, I was eating. I'm not gonna lie, I was half tempted to tell you a different story, but I'll just stick with the original one.
Just how spite.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, my original one was a homebrew game that we were in. The party was climbing a mountain when a rock attacked, and it ended up pushing us off the cliff, and we all grabbed onto each other, so we're dangling by this one warrior paladin guy, I can't remember which. And essentially my character uses the message cantrip to be like, hey, how's it hanging?
There we go.
And the guy who was holding on was like, I fucking hate you.
That's fucking great. I love that.
And Kyle,
Yes.
out of your time playing D&D 5e, what has been your favorite session?
My favorite session? That's a hard one. Like, I love the more RP-focused sessions. Is that just with you, or is that with everyone I've played with?
With any module you've done.
So, my sister and her girlfriend have been running Storm King's Thunder for... we have just passed our 2-year anniversary. We've been playing that game for years now, and she's been homebrewing a lot of the content. But one of my favorite moments, I think, in the module was like the end of the first act when we gathered a battalion from Tribor to take the fight to the Hill Giants, and the whole day leading up to the fight, honestly, was just as good, if not better than the fight itself, because everyone got like such a great character moment. Everyone was all like tense before the fight. There was the whole planning phase where we all did a bunch of skill checks to see how we could best go about attacking them. Colt, my character, remembered that when he was in the Hell Riders, he knew an artificer that would fill glass jars full of sand, oil, and gunpowder in order to make fire bombs that they would drop on the Hill Giants fortress. And, we used that, to catch the roof on fire. And then we had this whole skill check where we spent time, like, making these bombs. And then after that, we had all of the characters, like, doing preparations. And then my character has the chef's feat. He's kind of like the group dad. It's kind of funny. Where I went into, like, the mess hall tent, and I helped make just massive meal for everybody, and I aced the survival check with, like, a 25. Made everybody, like, I came up with, like, a whole recipe for, like, this rabbit pie Wellington that I would serve, and then I managed to find, and then I got a nat 20 again while I was looking through the supplies, and made everyone, like, little berry tarts for dessert. So... It was just a really great moment, like the tension, the preparation for the fight, but the gentle levity of, like, trying to reassure the troops that it'd be all right. It was such a heartfelt moment in the game, and even more so multiplied by how perilous the battle was, and that we came out on top by the skin of our teeth and a fucking clutch mass healing word.
And for me, it was a game that took place in Greyhawk, where it was completely homebrewed from the ground up, just took place in the Greyhawk setting. And I told you that session before was where I'm playing my Githyanki monk, and we have to very quickly escape a entire raider nation of lizard folk. So I've got the sorcerer in my arms, bridal style, and our druid, while shapes into a spider, crawls into my hair. And I use every key point I have to step in the wind and run as fast as I can out of there. While the sorcerer is casting haste on me, so we're running like Sonic the Hedgehog through this forest, while all these different lizard folk are throwing spears from behind me. And that was probably my favorite moment in D&D. But keep in mind, all three of our memories, all three of our stories, came from homebrew games. None of them were necessarily the module themselves.
Yeah, like for me, it's like I'm fairly certain like the whole battle against the Hill Giants was indeed a plot point, but literally assembling an army to go attack them, I don't think that was actually in the module itself.
It's not, because I've ran that fight as a dungeon master, and this is something I've said time and time again when I've talked with people about D&D 5e. If it weren't for homebrew, if it wasn't for the open game license, D&D 5e would collapse, because so much of the official content and so many of the official adventures are just absolutely terrible. Just horrible writing, horrible characters, horrible encounters, and horrible dungeon design.
Yeah,
that's
really...
what we're talking about today.
Yeah. We're doing the D&D 5e module tier list. Sorry.
And even so, like with Matt Mercer, the guy who brought mainstream attention to D&D, did so by making a homebrew game that was his world that he created, instead of, Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk or any module.
Yep.
So that's what we're getting into. D&D 5e official content fucking sucks, and then we're going to rank it.
Yes. Speaking of, I would just like to applaud Matt, because I have played both his Bloodhunter subclass and his Gunslinger subclass, both of which are fucking awesome. I love them.
I ran the game where you had the both of those guys.
And that Bloodhunter was actually the inspiration for a novel I wound up writing, so thank you, Matt.
And there you go. It all comes around.
Yes, it does.
See, we found this tier list. We've had to add one module to it, but this is, for the most part, up to date. And for like the teeny tiny content in terms of Adventure League, in terms of like very small expansions like Lakatha Rising, we're not really talking about that today. We're just going to go over these. We're going to like gunshot through them, module by module, and just if we have thoughts on it, we'll share it. Most of this bullshit's going to come from me, and we'll go in the order that he's placed it on the tier list. So, Kyle, what is the first one?
The very first one on the tier list is Princes of the Apocalypse.
Yes. We get to start off strong, right?
Yes. I haven't played this one, but from what you've told me, it's awesome.
Yeah. I told you it was awesome?
I think you did.
I did so with my tongue in my cheek telling you it was awesome.
Oh. It was probably a minute ago.
Now, I think this was the very first module that the Wizards of the Coast team made themselves. You had Lost Mine of Fendelver. Well, I guess that kind of counts instead. But Tyranny of Dragons was Kobold Press. That was a third-party company that was hired to make content for D&D 5e in the early days. And this is the first adventure outside of Phandalin, and you could continue from Lost Mines of Phandelver into this game, and it's not very good. This game expects you to start with a party of probably around 6 level 5 players.
Jesus.
And the issue with this game, difficulty. Just sheer difficulty. You have Red Larch, and posting the Town of Games chat, Red Larch, this is supposed to be a hub area where you and your party, between every individual dungeon, you go over here, you long rest here, you gear up here, and then you go off to the next dungeon. And I have never seen any stories of anybody that's been in a Princess game that has taught that much about Red Larch. This isn't so much a hub area, so much as it is one building with a glorified inn where you sleep, and then that's it.
Yeah.
There is very little room for role-playing this. And the main issue with this game, difficulty. Just sheer outrageous difficulty with this game.
Yeah.
And this starts off with easy enough, like the first elemental dungeon. You go into the temple of the Howling Hatred, and all's fair, all's good. You got a lot of room, but so many of the rooms in this dungeon are extremely compact, meaning that if you're playing a wizard that's got Fireball, who isn't the evocation wizard, more than likely you're going to blow up your party by doing that. And this is, say, Ron, we'll be generous and say level 7. This is a dungeon that's got shoals, plural, walking through the halls. And a section with water in it, where if you roll a d20 encounter and you are unlucky enough to roll a 6, a dragon turtle will appear.
A fucking what?
A dragon turtle.
Oh.
will just pop up in the middle of the dungeon. And if you think that's ridiculous, where some of the stuff in that can get ridiculous, don't worry, it gets worse with the Temple of Crushing Wave, where there are so many battles in this game that are just absolute bullshit. You have got the aforementioned Dragon Turtle encounter, but on top of that, you've got, say, enemies with swim speeds. And unless you knew about this module ahead of time, you didn't pick the Water Genasi, which was, upon this game's initial release, the only thing you could play as that had swim speed. And you would just go into the water, and you would get absolutely fucked by enemies that are moving at double the speed you can, or you're stuck at moving at half of your speed. And then you fight Gar Shatterkeel, where this is a boss with legendary resistances, which already sucks. But you're fighting him in a room that's got water in it. And this guy can just use control water and, summon water over your party. And if your GM is creative enough or knows about the exploit, use shape water, just instantly freeze your party solid. And there you go.
There's a lot of ways for a DM to cheat in this game. Also, bit of a note about Red Larch is, like, I've been through Red Larch and Storm King's Thunder, and my DM is creative enough to add a lot of life to the town, which honestly I feel like this module could really benefit from. Because if you have a town as a hub area, it needs to be lively. It needs to be a place that you can go back to and for it to be a home. It needs, and that's like what we were saying. Our beef with 5e, so much of it is homebrewed. It relies very heavily on the DM. But, it reminds me of, I think Warren Spector said during the creation of Deus Ex Mankind Divided that he didn't want to make like a big sprawling open world. He wanted to simulate a single city block and let you open every door and have a town that felt lived in. That's what you need for Red Larch if you want to make Princess of the Apocalypse work.
I mean, we've got Yakuza music playing in the background right now, and yeah, exactly, with Yakuza. You're essentially visiting 16 city blocks, and each one of them is filled with so much character. There's, like 75 different side quests packed into each game that only takes place on a map that small.
Yeah, it's really incredible, actually.
So, I've heard tons of stories about this game, about so many players throwing mutinies against their GMs, saying, can we please stop playing Princess of the Apocalypse? And you know your game is bad when you say that, because if your GM is cool enough or savvy about the rules, this game will become impossible to run unless you have to get into Tasha's culture and have everything content. You have to run the Twilight Cleric, you have to run the Peace Cleric, you have to start running all this high-level ridiculous shit just to stand a chance against this dungeon. And if you're in a game where D&D being a big roleplay game, if I have to play a certain way just to make progress, then you've made a terrible module.
Yeah.
So, Princess of the Apocalypse, let's go ahead and just put that in bottom tier.
Put it in dog shit. Princess of the Apocalypse, quite literally a pay-to-play 5e campaign. You need the fucking Tasha's Cauldron of everything in order to win.
You need Tasha's Cauldron of everything, you need Xanthar's got everything. You might as well get the Grung book too, and the Verdan book. So, there you go. This adventure fucking sucks.
I have the Grung book.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Grung book. How strong are the Grung?
I'd have to look, but let me pull it up. It's on D&D Beyond.
Okay, what is next on this list?
You're gonna love this. We're going to Witchlight, baby.
Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
Now, Ryan, how familiar are you with this adventure?
Not very.
All right. You have been to a Renaissance festival, right? You know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to go to the Renaissance Fair when I was younger.
Now, this game wants you to recreate and simulate a Renaissance festival as the first session. And because of that, I have been in 3 different Witchlight games. I have never seen any of them last more than one session, and that being the session. And, dog, it is impossible to please everybody with that session. Because with the Renaissance Festival, now when you go, do you want to stay in your group, or do you want to spread out and visit the shows that you want to see and see the booths that you want to see?
Me personally, I always split the party.
All right, and Kyle, what about you?
For Renaissance Fair, it's like, yeah, typically we'll all get together, grab a couple of drinks, check in. We'll all probably spread out, do our own thing, or we'll just walk and talk together. It all depends on the day, really, who's feeling in what mood. But mostly you're free to like just go and do whatever you like.
Honestly, I think the Grunung are pretty strong looking at it.
Mm-hmm. The Grunung are very strong, and when I went to Ren Fair last, I went during a senior trip. It was this, I went with a group of friends, but we very quickly split up, and eventually I was just going around watching the shows I wanted to see by myself. Now, no matter which approach you do, if you want to stay as a group, or if you want to go off individually, that destroys the session. Because if you stay as a group, you have players that are at booths or at rides that they don't want to be at. They're looking at the content off in the distance where they want to go, and they want to explore that, and they want to roleplay with that. But no, the GM says you have to stay as a group. And then if you split the party, everyone is so spread out, and the Dungeon Master has to tend to everybody's individual personal need. And by that point, you are sitting in a Discord call, dead silent, for 45 minutes. You get to talk for 5 minutes, and then behold, it's off to the next person. Yeah. And not only that, there's supposed to be a little side quest you do where you're looking for 3 different rogue agents that are trying to ruin the fair, along with Kettle Steam, who's a fun little Kinku NPC, but she is so abrasive, and she's programmed to refuse to work with your party. And if you have good memories with Kettle Steam, thank your GM for that. But one of these rogue agents is I believe they're going off the Wraith stat block. You're level 1 when you encounter them. So, how the fuck are you supposed to win that fight? Yes. Exactly that. And this adventure has got so much bullshit at the start of it. And then how you get into the Feywild, it depends on your GM. The module just throws its hands in the air and says, the GM decides how you get to the Feywild, which of course fucking sucks.
Yeah.
So
that's just lazy writing.
When you just get thrown into the Feywild, behold, the actual adventure can finally start. And you're in the Feywild, and it's fun. You're in the Feywild. But here's the thing. A lot of your memories with the Feywild are going to come from the Dungeon Master, and they're making references to the Wizard of Oz or Alice in Wonderland. I mean, it's the Feywild. Your thoughts influence the realm. You can just do whatever you want with the Feywild as a setting. Very little of it is actually going to be in the book. Now, there are some fun NPCs you can find in here. There's a guy here that's a walking, talking dandelion, and he's a very charming NPC. You can hang out with this guy, but I never got to fucking meet him because this game kept collapsing every time I tried being in it. And if you said, well, why don't you run this game? Hell fucking no, am I running this? If I do, we are skipping the fair segment entirely and just going right immediately into the Feywild section. But on top of that, this game has a requirement. And you can say no to it, but it demands that all of your characters had to know each other as children. And all of them got a little Feywild curse that they lose at the Witchlife Carnival. and they have to go into the Feywild to get that curse removed. Where why did you wait until you're adults to do that? I mean, if you have a character that's an elf who can live up to 2,000 years and they're a child, I mean, if they're going to do this in any reasonable time in a party of mixed races, they're going to come back still as a child, and then you have to like kind of role play that out in D&D, where history has shown with D&D 5e, my experience in the fandom, child characters are heavily frowned upon.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to play with that.
No.
So
yeah, I had a huge issue with one of my not one of my players, but one of the players I was playing with.
Yeah.
Decided to like up and change their character to a child, and we're like, well, we're leaving you behind, and she got all upset and ended up leaving the group.
Yeah.
There was other stuff that happened that why she left, but
man,
yeah,
it really does suck that there's so much stuff holding this module back, because there's some genuinely interesting maps in here. I mean, you got this little map right here. I'm just going to post it in the game chat with you. Loom Lurch.
Yeah.
Where it's this fallen tree that's been carved into, and you've got all this stuff that you can just walk into and explore. It's this, like, pretty much a dungeon that has been built out of a fallen tree, which is only possible in the Feywild. And you have this little guy in there called Chucklehead.
You posted Red Larch again.
I posted Red Larch again. Oh, fuck it. All right. Well, here's your picture of Chucklehead, by the way. Now, Kyle, look at his design. You see it? You see how fun this is?
Yeah,
you see how fucking fun. Like,
it's really neat.
Yeah.
It's very I'm not a huge what's the name? Who directed Nightmare Before Christmas? Tim Burton. It's very Burton.
Really, it's a fallacy, because like Tim Burton did like a little bit of stuff on it, and then someone else did most of the work. But yeah, fuck it. We're calling it a Tim Burton movie.
It's very Burton-esque design. It looks like colorful, but a little bit off, a little canny, but it really helps influence the aesthetic of the game. Like my GM for Storm King's Thunder wants to run Witchlight. And I think it'd be a lot of fun, but I wanted to use my Bloodhunter character for that, because I think that she was going to make it more like a horror murder mystery kind of thing, which would be great because he's a private investigator. That's his character. And I really want to see how she does that, because so far all the requirements for making Witchlight work are just kind of freaking dumb.
Yeah, because I told you, like, tell her that for the fair section, kick the actual exploration of the fair out entirely, and just have it immediately go into the mystery part. There's Loom Lurch, by the way. I finally found an image that was small enough.
Yep.
So yeah, you could see just how fun like the dungeon design in this gets, but now just the start of Wild Beyond the Witchlight is so bad that it just drags the entire module down with me. I remember when this got announced, I got so excited to purchase it, but I wanted to be a player in it first, and I was in a player in it, and it just immediately killed my excitement for buying Witchlight.
Again, relies heavily on the DM.
So, don't put this in dog shit. Put this in the tier above it. Put
it in cringe. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The intro really is just that bad.
Yes. Moving on. I actually don't know a whole lot about this one. Call of the Netherdeep.
All right. Immediately put into cringe. Immediately.
It's.
I was telling Ryan about this, that this module personally chaps my ass, where this could have been cool, because this takes place in Matt Mercer's little setting. This takes place in his world. But what immediately put me off about it is that they said humans are a minority in the setting, and then you start looking at all the different NPCs, and they become stand-in for, say, racial minorities in America. Now, that's not the issue I'm getting at. The issue I am getting at is that, you care more about the fantasy races than the actual real-life minority races. You gotta fight for the rights of people that don't exist, right?
Yeah, as it is. They're coded. Coded. That term always threw me off a little bit. I saw a furry artist on Twitter the other day, and she made this really cool, like, pit bull design that had like the sort of Kruger haircut, looked really strong, looked really cool, and this was an African American artist, by the way, was
Yes.
just getting cooked in the replies, like, oh, why did you make this aggressive breed black coated? I'm like, hold the hell up, hold the fuck up. First of all, fuck anybody that hates pit bulls. Fuck anybody that hates pit bulls. Pit bulls are sweethearts. If you train them right, if you treat them right, they won't get aggressive. Like
you gotta put some serious fucking time in. That's not a breed for irresponsible owners at all.
Yeah, but the fact that they automatically equated, oh, this is a violent breed of dog with an African American style haircut, they must be insinuating that. No, they wanted to. They had this great idea for a character. They applied something that they thought was cool to it, to a very strong and beautiful, breeded dog to make a furry character out of it, and it looked great. And I even posted on Twitter, I'm like, this artist did not deserve to get cooked like this. She really did not. And
it really does upset me some days that I don't tell people I'm a fan of D&D anymore, and that's just because of just how fucking racist the fandom is. Like, there's just genuine shame being somebody who plays D&D to me now.
Horseshoe theory is very, very real. Like, if you keep trying to be anti-racist, you wind up being racist again.
Yeah, this has become, I look on Roll20, this is one of the most gatekeeped fandoms I've ever seen in my life, and dog.
And then they screech about gatekeeping.
Yeah, so many people that like fantasy deserve a better fandom than this. Wholeheartedly fuck D&D fans.
We already reached the motif of this video before. We're only 3 modules in, my guy.
And yeah, so it's kind of fucking cringe, but that you have to use that as a marketing ploy, where I don't know, the setting itself is kept to the wayside, where the setting itself is a mostly wasteland. There's a lot of stuff in here that's pretty empty. You have the Emerald Gulch, which that's a lot of hostile environments and a lot of places to have random encounters. And it's finally got a module where the villain is evil and the fate of the world is at stake. And that's cool. I mean, finally we have a villain. Not every villain needs to be nuanced, dude. You did not have to make Strahd a pussy when you made Curse of Strahd. We're going to get to Curse of Strahd in a minute, but the thing is that this module has a B team that's NPC run, that your Dungeon Master leads, led by one AOJ, who's a Earth. She's a water genasi that's got orc teeth, and she's meant to be the rival for Pokemon, so to speak, where she chaps her ass, and if you don't get to something in time, she does it for you. But that's the issue. You've got an adventuring party that's doing something for you, where why doesn't the chaotic neutral rogue say, why don't we just take a back seat and let this group do all the dungeons for us? And we can just relax and do something else while they're distracted with this. And it's kind of got me wondering, if there's already an adventuring party, I know they're worse than the player character party, unless you really bond it with team composition. But at the same time, why should I rush to danger if there is another group of adventurers that's doing this stuff already?
Yes.
That's something I really am wondering about, because the fate of the world is a little less perilous when there's another group that's helping out, and at the same time you can't really compromise with this group until there's a point in the story where they fuck up and they stayed fucked up, and then they can kind of help you as NPCs if your Dungeon Master wills it.
Yeah.
But there is one massive issue I have with this. Me and Ryan were talking before this, and we said that with a major issue with a lot of modules is that they leave too many spaces between plot points, so the Dungeon Master has to fill something. With this, is the opposite, because this adventure is so stiff and rigid. There are instructions after every plot point as for every contingency is thought of. Where if your players did this or if your players did that, it's like a written script in front of you as to what to do if they mess up or if they succeed. To the point where it kind of feels like the dungeon master by this point is a wetware brain computer that's just going bit for bit, point for point. And funny enough, it takes the imagination out of the game rather than puts anything in.
Yeah, it's very
Sure.
rigidly designed, and which is sad
Yeah.
given that Mercer had a hand in it. Because I've watched. I didn't listen to the Critical Role podcast, but I watched the Legend of Vox Machina, and I love that show, and I love the world that they built. It's really well made. It's incredible, and the
I
fact
checked
that
out season 2, and
I watched season 2 was fucking tight.
yeah. It had all the fun NPCs in it, but you can tell that Matt Mercer himself didn't have that much of a hand in this, where Wizards of the Coast wanted their people to write it. And there's some good artwork in the book. I mean, there's some good maps in here. Some of the stuff looks interesting. You've got like some unique environments. But at the same time, it just doesn't carry the module enough. So it's in cringe, and it's staying in cringe.
Yep.
Where it sucks, because this could have been great, but it's not going to be.
Yeah. It has potential, but it's not there. Okay.
All right.
Moving on.
What's next?
Please don't spoil this. Please don't spoil this game for me, because I'm right in the middle of it, and I'm so pumped. Curse of Strahd, baby.
I fucking hate this module, dude.
Really?
I remember when you told me this, and I don't know if I said out loud or not. I said, "God bless you for being in a game of Curse of Strahd."
Dude, I am excited. I'm having a good time in Curse of Strahd. Like, the landscape's a little sparse, but like, my DM for it is my sister, and she's honestly doing a really good job just selling the dread and the tension of Barovia.
Now, when this game concludes, you ask her how much stuff did she add into this.
That's what I'm looking to see right now. But we played through the Death House, and I'm playing a fighter artificer gunslinger. And
Now,
it is so much fun to find like all these creative solutions to these very intricate problems that come up. Like the first boss like the whole module said. I remember when we were in the Death House, it said we had to find like a rat and sacrifice it on the altar in order to get to the boss. But she was like, "Nah, that's stupid." So we tried to leave. Then the gates closed. Then the thing rumbled, and the giant mass appeared, and we had to fight it. But then I came up with the idea. It's like, okay, I'm gonna nail my crowbar into the wall, tie a rope around it, and then lead it through the gate and drop the gate on it. And so we made it with like an odds and evens roll, and it did like fucking 5D. It did like 5d6 or 5d8 of bludgeoning damage, like cut its health and cut a third out of its health. That was such a great moment with a lot of tension built up to it, and I love so far Curse of Strahd.
No, you've been having a good time with it because you've got a good GM. I have been in 6 different Curse of Strahd games. I have never in my life in any of those games seen any of these modules, any of those games last past Chapter 7. It all collapses around that point where after you're done with the village of Falaki, it is just a matter of time before that game falls apart.
Is it?
And I ran this game once, and I made the mistake of accepting a DM applicant to run Curse of Strahd because I didn't know just what a group of douchebags I was going to be running for. I deliberately TPK'd that party just so I could have an excuse to get out.
Good lord.
But you play this, and it wants to say it's an open world game. It wants to say that you can just go around and explore the world of Barovia and just go through the world of Barovia on your own pace, and that's not the case at all because from what I've seen with every sandbox game I've ever run, is that the players all sit in dead silence and have absolutely no idea what to say to each other. No roleplay happens. No nothing happens. Never run a open world game, a sandbox game, because your game will fall apart. 2 of those Curse of Strahd games I was in tried doing that approach, and I don't think you realize this, but people that play D&D are socially awkward and aren't just going to start up conversations out of the blue. You need to have a prompt or a reason to get people to talk. And Strahd, having Barovia, which is this completely self-isolated world. Unless your character is a vampire hunter or a Vistani, there's no real investment in the world of Barovia for them to cling on to. So they're already detached, and anytime you want to have a hands-off GM, that game will fall flat because nobody's talking to each other. Now, the actual story. I had Strahd built up so much for me by the dungeon dudes. I was told that he was this incredible villain. And then I went through the GM's note, and I read through the whole thing, and I said, oh, he's just punting for a lost lover. That's it. That's his entire character. This dude's a fucking simp in this module, where everything that happens is just because, oh, my wife died, and then that's it. That's all. That's the reason he turned evil.
I mean, it was the same in the Castlevania anime as well. I think that's just like a general like part of like Dracula lore, really.
Yeah, and the thing is, with Castlevania, Dracula then uses that as an excuse to become the devil that he always was, where Dracula is a bad person wherever you go into not so much the Castlevania anime, but more like the video games, like Lament of Innocence is what I'm thinking of. And here, Strahd just comes off as this massive simp where everything he's doing is just to recreate his lost love with a woman that he's never going to see again. And it just makes him look like a fucking loser, dude, because in 3rd edition and 2nd edition, all the Ravenloft stuff, this guy was just straight evil. And sure, his wife dying was a part of it, but no, he just used that as an excuse to become the worst possible person he could be, and then eventually fell in love with how evil he was and became the vampire. I mean, part of D&D lore is that all vampires spring off of Strahd. So there's supposed to be a feeling that you're not just fighting a vampire, you're fighting the vampire when you go after Strahd. And that feeling isn't here because now it's just being distracted by this whole, oh, we're trying to make Strahd sympathetic shit. And no, that's not doing it for me, Chief. I ain't doing that.
Yeah, I can't.
I want Strahd to be fucking evil.
I can't wait. I really hope that my sister decides to go the more like neutral evil route with Strahd, which I feel like she will, just because she's really good at writing villains, or at least people who've had villainous passes, characters who had villainous pasts. Because like I'm using my, like I said, my gunslinger artificer, Marcus. His whole reason for being is that his wife was killed by a vampire. His wife and son were killed by vampires. So like he had to leave like his simple trade of blacksmithing to go hunting, which is he is in a sense a vampire hunter. He's out for revenge, which I think will lend itself to the story well. You know, but I can't wait for him to if Strahd does wind up giving me like the sob story speech, I'm like, oh, that sounds rather familiar with something that happened to me. I think you and I could learn from each other. And then he pulls out a gun and shoots him in the chest.
I hope you're.
I have high hopes for her. I think this will be good.
But at the same time, when my other big complaint is dungeon design. Do you like the color gray? I hope you do, because every dungeon here is gray.
It's very Resident Evil 4.
No color in any of these fucking books. Oh yeah, just everything is washed out, and eventually all these damn locations look the fucking same. And for me, for I'm not going to use the word ADHD. For a brain like mine that constantly wants to see new stuff, running into areas where say, oh, we're in Kresik now, it looks a lot like the winery or the hill that we were just in. And eventually get me where I just eventually lost interest in Strahd, and after the 5th time, I kept telling myself, oh, it's going to be a classic this time, I found the right Dungeon Master this time, and I'm never going to find it. I'm definitely not on Roll20, and if I run it myself, it's not going to be the experience I want, where Strahd has just been forever tainted to me as a game that's just going to be bad, and it's just going to stay bad for me. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's never going to happen for me. Ryan, do you have any ideas?
No, not really.
You not played
really?
Strahd?
I can't say that I played Strahd.
Yeah.
No.
I'm enjoying it so far. Johnny's had some bad experiences with it, so let's compromise. We'll put it in mid.
All right, we'll make Curse of Strahd mid.
Okay.
I did play Tomb of Annihilation. That's the one I was thinking of before.
Ooh, I'm excited for this. Descent into Avernus.
All right.
I've heard good things.
This is the first module that I played front to back, and it was ran by John. I fucking love Descent into Avernus.
Now the thing is,
go ahead.
You say that. Do you have any idea how much editing I did behind the scenes?
Well, I'm sure you had to do a lot, regardless. But still, from what you've done and like what our group in particular did with it, I think worked great. Like, yeah, we did lose a lot of people along the way just because of life shit. But between the setting, the fucking motivations of our characters, the talk with the actual, demons of hell and the devil lords, having to talk to Bell, getting his flame tongue for what was Metal's character's name? I forget.
Freaky Fred.
Yeah, for Fred.
Yeah.
And then driving the Bone Crusher across the scorched sand, fighting Bitter Breath. It was Mad Max in hell with a heavy metal soundtrack, and I loved it.
You can have a lot of fun with Descent into Avernus, where if you have a GM that's very competent, I'm not going to toot my own horn. I had to do a lot of editing to get this off the ground, but in terms of setting, this game will always have a place in my heart. I will always have good memories of running Descent into Avernus. At the same time, I know this could have been a massive disaster if I had ran it straight, where there are a few encounters I can name. There's 3 encounters I can think of that would have resulted in a TPK had I not done some serious editing. Now, there is a pretty infamous start to this game where it's the Elf Song Tavern, and that's supposed to be a fight against 8 bandits and a bandit chief over, say, a spy character that you have no real connection to. And on top of that, the adventure doesn't really start until you get deputized into the Flaming Fist, who were, I don't know, villains in the previous module, Tomb of Annihilation. So after that happens, you're supposed to get into this fight at level 1. Kyle, when we ran that game, you remember I just skipped that fight entirely. I didn't run it.
I think we just sought out the spy and talked to him. I think. Well, we fought somebody. I remember in the tavern. I think it was just like a general brawl.
Yeah, we were doing the brawl, and then the spy jumped out of a window, and then the captain realized, oh, well, there she goes. Well, there's no real reason for us to keep fighting because the guy we were fighting just left. Yeah. After that is the Dungeon of the Dead 3. This is an infamous dungeon. I know somebody who knows D&D 5e that just heard me say that just shuddered inside after I said that. Where, yeah, that is a pretty good enough dungeon up until you get to the boss of that dungeon. Where, Kyle, it's not just legendary resistances. They have a reaction ability where they can just take no damage from an attack.
Nah, fuck that.
They can just do that. I meant, how fucking bullshit of a design is that, Ryan?
It's pretty bullshit.
It's just like Stone's Endurance on steroids.
Yeah.
On top of that, they've got a fear effect, where I'm trying to pull up the exact DC on this. I think it's something like DC 16 Wisdom save they have to pass, or you get a fear effect that paralyzes you when it affects you.
Hold up, what level were we?
You were level 3.
No, fuck that. Wait, hang on. Well, level 3 as a bard, I had protection against good and evil.
This is a DC 14 Wisdom save that you have to pass, or it stuns you.
Yeah, that is kind of bullshit, though.
Yeah, and that they just do that at the start of their turn, and then they can just walk up to you with these daggers. Where, I don't know, this guy has a 7 to hit and a +5 to his dagger damage. And then he could just attack you with advantage. And if he rolls a crit, that might as well just kill you.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
See, also, he has an ability called Aura of Murder, which makes you vulnerable to piercing damage if he's standing next to you. So
what?
I know you enjoy taking 2d4 plus 10 piercing damage every roll.
Plus 10?
Yes, plus 10.
That I didn't know. What the fuck?
That kills a level 3 PC in 2 stabs.
Holy shit.
And if you have the GM that wants to stab you while you're on the ground, well, behold, we're going to skip your death saves and just immediately go into a player kill.
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
And then there's one more fight in this that's pretty infamous, and it's the fight with Zerial herself.
Yes.
Where, now, keep in mind, you're somewhere between level 13 and level, say, 15 when you fight her. When you finally get to Zerial, her damage values are inflated beyond what's reasonable for fighting a boss at this level.
What was her CR?
Let's see, her CR 23.
What the hell?
Yes.
At level 13?
Yeah, she is that strong.
This is why our game ended like Undertale, where we literally had to pull the sword from her hand.
Yes. And I'm pulling up the exact stat block for you as I speak. I know that Mordenkainen's released a version of her stat block where I think that stat block, it was actually like harder to fight her with that stat block. Let me see here. I know I'm looking at the wrong thing.
I know that I will say though, it was our game, A Descent to Avernus, that inspired me to make Colt into a former Hell Rider for both Storm King and module we will talk about later.
Yeah, the Hell Riders are awesome, but yeah, here we go. Here's the damage values with Zerial. Okay.
Throw them up.
So this is 3 attacks she makes per turn. The flail that she has deals 2d8 plus 16 to hit. 10 foot reach, 2d8 plus 8 plus 8d8 damage with each swing. That 8d8 is fire damage, by the way. And then one attack with a hammer, also plus 16, also 10 feet, 2d8 plus 8, and see if she rolls a if she can use this two-handed, where that becomes a 2d10 plus 8, plus 8d8 fire damage on top of that. So we had our barbarian character had his health shaved off by 2/3 when he fought her in the final boss.
Yeah, it was pretty dire.
Oh yeah. I don't see how I can fight her on even ground, because the arena you fight her on is only I think that's like a 36-foot square, and that's it.
Yeah, it was like on top of a flying fortress.
Yeah, so I don't know how you're supposed to beat this boss legit.
You just have to be broken as fuck, I think.
But
yep.
Now, in terms of roleplay, now Ryan, this is where the module shines, because there are so many spots for roleplay in this module that are fantastic. I remember all these different ones, like your first encounter with Bitter Breath, where you see him from across the river Styx and he does the slit throat motion. That was one of your favorite parts of the game.
Yeah, I remember that.
Your conversation with Zerial, the flashback to Idleglyn, where you get to see why Zerial fell and because of Yenogu. Along with that, you can find Baphomet in here, and you can talk with him. You can make a contract with Bell, the former Archduke, and you can talk with the unicorn that's in the Demon Zapper, talk with the witches that's inside the grove with the blood-sucking vines, and you can talk with a bearded devil that had brain damage that made him good, and he's getting bullied by other devils, and he can help you out later down the road. And you can meet Mordenkainen in this book, where you stand in a line of other Yugolos that are waiting for Mordenkainen to hire him for a job, and you can just talk with the guys in the line because they're not here to attack you. And all the roleplay you can do in this module, it's fantastic. It saves it for the combat encounters.
That's part of the reason why I loved it so much, is because of how much roleplay was in it. I love very roleplay heavy sessions, which is part of the reason I love World of Darkness so much. It's because there's a lot more sociability to it. And, you know, I'm generally, as you could probably tell from my voice, it's like, I love doing all the voices. I love playing characters. And that's part of the reason I love Descent to Avernus.
Yeah.
So, even with all this stuff, I'm trying to look this as like objectively as I can. I'm going to say it brings me no real pressure, but I'm going to say it's mid. Come on, we're going to put this in mid.
Really? Come
'Cause,
on.
I mean, we had a great time, but like the design flaws are just that bad.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's still so much about it that's good though. Like if it's mid, it's just kind
You want to
of
bring it up to
whatever.
next tier?
But yeah, I feel like it should at least be in the good tier.
All right, let's do it.
All right. This one here, I don't know a whole lot about. Let me copy the image and get it to you, because we have a couple of like starter sets in here. Yeah, it's the D&D starter set for
That's Findelver.
just it's
I
Fandelver.
love running Fandelver.
Oh yeah, Ryan,
it's
you
what-
know about this one. You tell this one.
It's one of the ones that I was talking about earlier. How they leave a lot up to homebrewing. So like they'll tell you what needs to be done, how they can do it, and all this other stuff, but they don't give you like personalities for NPCs or what to do in between while traveling. It's a lot of it's homebrew. So I had found that I had to go and find random encounters that I would have to make.
And with
Lean
this,
very heavily on you.
dude, you remember the
Yeah.
Cragmaw hideout and just how tight the design of Cragmaw hideout is.
Yeah.
This dungeon, dude. If you play this, if you're a player in this has a high chance of being one of your favorite moments in D&D. Send you a big damn image file in the game chat that we have in our Discord. Now, the thing is, when you played this back when D&D released, this dungeon was hard as hell. But now with like Xanthar stuff and Tasha's Sculpture and everything, this dungeon has just gotten better in age with all the player options stuff you can do. And you look at this, and every inch of this dungeon is packed with stuff. I mean, I think there's around 15 different goblins total in here, along with Clark, who is a bugbear, who has a sneak attack and long reach and everything. That is the dungeon boss. And I remember I ran this with my players for a game I run on Wednesdays. And Clark was something that got brought up even after, like, long after we completed this dungeon, just because of how close he came to TPK in the party. And
Wow.
when you fight a bugbear at level 1 after fighting that many goblins already, oh yeah, you're going to remember that fight. And immediately after surviving this dungeon, the sheer amount of loot you find, along with finding Sildar, and possibly nursing Sildar back to health and having him help you through the rest of the dungeon, if you're smart enough to go left when you go into this dungeon for the first time. And it's such good game design, and I wish it stayed. I wish game design stayed this tight for the rest of D&D 5e. And then you get to the town of Phandalin, and Ryan, there are so many fun NPCs in Phandalin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Where
just don't have a personality.
yeah, or you do have to like add that in with yourself. Like it gives you like a rough idea, but you're not really told, why these people
And my dad's yelling
give
at
up
me
their
for some
lives
reason.
and then go to Phandalin. Yeah,
That's all good.
and when you look at this, there's a lot of stuff in this game that you do need to add on yourself as a dungeon master. But when you look at the combat and the different encounters, where there's another fun one I'm thinking of, Cragmaw Castle. Yeah, this was a really fun one. Where you just go into a castle and just do like this whole castle raid on a castle that's filled with goblins and cultists, and really just all these combat encounters. I just ran them straight. I just ran all those straight, and I had a fantastic time running this with my players. And eventually, after we beat the last dungeon, I did some of the stuff out of order. So Cragmaw Castle and Wyvern Tor were the last two things that we did before I started going off into, say, an epilogue with Phandelver that eventually like spun it off into like the Netherese and the lore behind that. But if we ended it there, that still would have been a good conclusion with it. So, really, I can't say anything that bad about Lost Band of Phandelver. Ryan, you got any other ideas?
No, not really. But
Yeah, so yeah, put this next to Descent to Avernus. It's pretty good.
All right.
It's it's good, but it's not great. That's kind of the conclusion I can come to.
All right.
yeah,
So, moving on from that, we have post this in chat so everybody can see. Waterdeep Dragon Heist.
Okay, 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 okay,
A lot of okays. What's the okay?
okay. So this is a module that is 85% roleplay, and if you have a group of socially awkward people, this game will fall apart within one session. But there is something cursed about Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and I can't put my finger on what it is. But it just seems to attract the most narcissistic players I've ever had the misfortune of meeting on Roll20. Where you have players that will send in legit 7 to 9 page documents for the backstory. And the GMs that run it will expect it to be that detailed, or will say you're putting too much on them. And this is the game where I met Sean, who has been part of our channel for a while.
Right.
And I'm happy I joined that group. I'm happy that I got to meet Sean. I had to cut myself loose from it because the GM and one player in particular, I remember this guy's name too. It's Winter on Roll20, where he's got like a little picture of a corgi as his profile picture. That dude fucking sucked. And the GM just refused to tell him no when it came to anything he did. And in terms of a game that's almost all roleplay, it leads to the DM adding in a lot of stuff. And I've played this game with 3 different groups. One of them immediately fell apart because the players just weren't role-playing, and then 2 of them ghosted, and that was the end of that. The other was the game I met Sean in, where that group was close to fantastic, except for, yeah, one bad apple really did just spoil the entire bunch of that game.
But with the
And
fantastic guy, how far did you actually get?
With the fantastic guy, we were level 4, close to done with the module. But I just couldn't take it anymore, and neither could Sean. And it's funny story too. The guy we had as our dungeon master was he was legit sexist. The guy was not divorced. You definitely couldn't tell he was. And Sean can tell the story too. We encountered so many female NPCs that were just the most neurotic women you could imagine, that just threw themselves onto us, and like the GM is like screaming and peeking the microphone playing as the women in this module. And he's definitely not venting about his ex-wife. He's definitely not coping. He's definitely not bitter about the divorce. And that was just so much of it. And this game relies on your DM, and you have like when you have a DM that's like a shitty sexist like that. Pity guy on Roll20, by the way, if you want to find this guy.
Is this just now? It's a call out post. Come on.
yeah.
Good lord.
But
John
yeah,
is
if you have,
airing
like, a
out
shitty
all of his
DM.
grievances. I'm going to title this
Yeah.
video "The Roast on 5e."
But the other thing too, like I don't remember the name of the players for this one, but it was another game where it was a group that was already established, like 2 new guys were added in, and I enjoyed playing it up until the point where we got too involved with one player that quickly made themselves the main character of the game, where you know your game is good as dead as soon as that starts. But thing is that whenever somebody was trying to roleplay or say something, he would legit shout into the microphone for them to shut up, and then the table would just shut down after that, and he could just roleplay and talk with himself and the GM. And it eventually got to a part where, like, we had like a argument that was like breaking out in and out of character, that I just got from my computer and just walked away from that, and then left the Roll20 game after that, because I'm not dealing with that shit. If I want to argue with the guy, I'll do it on my own time. I'm not going to do it while I'm trying to relax in the middle of a game, dude.
Yeah, bro. I already don't argue. I don't like arguing anyway, so that sounds like a rough time.
So, yeah, the stuff that's in here that's roleplay, there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. I mean, Troll Skull Manor is such a great sandbox for stuff you can do as players, because the first floor of it is a tavern, and then the second, third, and fourth floor are bedrooms, and you pretty much get handed the deed for that at the start of the game. And really, if you have the Homebrew Durnan's Guide to Tavern Keeping, uh, behold, there's your business simulator. If you want to do a D&D business simulator, there you go. But then again, that's the issue, isn't it? You gotta put more homebrew into this stuff in order for it to start going somewhere. And you have a fireball encounter, and then you have the dragon season encounter, and so much of the stuff is in here. You'll say you had great memories with it only because the dungeon master put in a lot of work to make it fantastic. And I want to be in a game of Dragon Heist that's that good, but this game just seems to attract psychopath players. Like, even so, like when I start joining games on Roll20, I'll see an application from a player where it gives me pause. I'm saying, this guy's a narcissist. I'm getting out of here. And hell, I might just need to run this game myself, or
So what you're saying is
I
should run it.
Yeah, if you want to run D&D 5e after you do Rage Cross Appalachia, this would be a good one to start with.
That's gonna be
or
odd.
Ryan, or Ryan, if you want to get into GMing, this would be a good one for you too. And yeah, I know, like Ryan, you're a little like apprehensive when it comes to running stuff on the show.
Yeah,
Don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid. I don't know.
It's a big time commitment.
Had a lot of people. Yeah, I've had a lot of people come and go in my games, and a lot of people say that they'd play again.
Yeah.
They play again, and then when I reach out, they're like, "Oh no." Oh.
I mean, you saw me drop the fucking ball with Pathfinder, and then we still stayed together after that.
Well, yeah.
Well, no, I don't think that was your fault.
I don't think
that was
this
just
group
us
is
like
going
not
anywhere.
digging the setting.
Yeah.
So, well, then again, who made the setting?
Well, yeah, it was just like a bit too harsh for and like Pathfinder 1E is a very crunchy game.
If you like that, you get to play Pathfinder 2E, where everything needs a calculator.
We're just coming off of Warhammer too.
But this game has got 4 possible villains you can run in it, and all of them are fantastic. The Xanathar is this nutcase mafia boss, where if he wasn't a beholder, there would be no reason to take him seriously. But he's got like all these different like eccentricities and quirks to him. He's like a coup from Samurai Jack, if you ever watched the show, where he's a villain that constantly goes back and forth between being hilarious to being genuinely scary.
I love that, in all honesty. I love like comically evil villains who can actually follow through on how diabolical they are.
Along with that, you've got the Castlanters, who are 2 evil bankers that sold their children to the devil in order to get money. And yeah, you can tell just how much they deserve it.
Yeah, good lord.
Second of all, Jarlaxle Bainra, who was the villain in the game that I got to be a part of, that had like the guy with the main character syndrome in it. And from the encounters that we had with Jarlaxle, he was a very impressive villain. I don't know how much of that was the GM and how much of that was stuff in the book already, but it felt like we were meeting a mafia don when we did the encounter. And Jarlaxle, he has a point. He has genuine good points, and his presence pushes out other crime families in Waterdeep, and it raises the question about, the necessary evil. I mean, should a guy as bad as Jarlaxle be allowed to operate, given that he's pushing out other crime families that could be worse than he is? And lastly, you've got Manshoon. And if you got a guy who knows the lore to D&D 5e, you are very excited to play as Manshoon, because that raises the question, which Manshoon is this? Is he the clone? Does he know that he's a clone? And how much control does he have over the Zentarum? And you can just have so much fun with Manshoon because he is an unapologetically evil bastard. And you will have such a fun time with Manchun. Like this is a character that I really want to get my hands on if I run the game myself. And this is a game that I want to have it sit next to Descent to Avernus and Phandalin. But the player culture is so bad it makes me want to put it in mid.
But remember, we're judging this not just off of our experience, but off of the strength of the module itself. So where would you put it just off the strength of the module?
In that case, put in a high tier with Avernus and Phandalin.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, this is it's a great game that just attracts shitty players.
Yes. Moving on from that, we have. Let me paste the link. Horde of the Dragon Queen.
F, the big F, huge F.
Dog shit.
Oh, yes, this encounter is terrible. Would you like to fight 6 waves of 12 kobolds in a row and level 1?
What?
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
How the fuck? That's broken as shit.
So this is a game that was. This game was made by Kobold Press back when nobody really knew what the meta for D&D 5e was going to look like. So you had absolute bullshit encounters like that at level 1.
Yeah, no, that's a TPK. That's bullshit.
And so much of this book is just absolutely generic kind of stuff. I'm like, what do you think high fantasy looks like? It's what this book looks like, where it feels like you're doing a paint-by-number story, and they try so hard to ham-fist the Emerald Enclave and the Lord's Alliance and Zentarum and the Harpers into a story, and it just feels hokey, dude. It's not a good story, and it tries so hard to make Tiamat look like this menacing villain, where Tiamat has got such a massive list of enemies. Like, why are we the only people running an assault against Tiamat?
Yeah.
And on top of it, this is like a grandma dragon by this point. I mean, this is a god of chromatic dragons. But you CR20. And that's about it. And you can have good moments in this game, because your encounter with Langdedrosa Cyanrath, who is this half-dragon, blue dragon, who is sitting outside of... I don't even remember what the city is called, it doesn't matter. But he's sitting out there and he says, I am looking for the strongest warrior in this town. I'm going to sit out here, wait for him to duel me. If he doesn't duel me within an hour, I'm just going to come in with my raiding camp and level everything.
That's
And
funny as shit.
That challenge and encountering him is such a great moment, but that's one moment in a game that's just this bad.
So basically, it's like the Warcraft movie of 5e campaigns, where it tries to put everything that's in there in the game so everybody can like point at it and do the soy jack face, but it was made too early without enough of the context for it to be good. It doesn't have enough strength in the combat encounters because it was written before the meta was solidified. But it was also so packed with content that nobody has context for yet.
I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, but I enjoyed the Warcraft movie.
Oh.
well, he's in it for the ride. He wasn't looking at the lore.
No, I was not.
Yeah, but the way this game ends is that you have this encounter with Rezmir, who... By this point, he's a black half-dragon that's been chapping your ass for the entire game. And you have this massive fight with him in this castle that's in the clouds. And it's supposed about this massive epic fight. But let us know in the comments if you ever reached it, because the game ends strong with that massive fight, but God bless you if you were able to sit through all this and get to it. Like, even, like, the Dungeon Master has to do so much work just to get this playable. Because some of the stuff, like the encounters, the way they're written, are just absolute garbage. And there's one castle in here, like Castle Nayartar, that the way it's written, this level is such fucking bullshit that, oh my gosh, I mean, you want to go through a dungeon where you've got bullet bugs, crocodiles, and lizard folk clambering after you. with the possibility of shambling mounds and will-o-wisps, while you are constantly in difficult terrain the whole dungeon.
Now, fuck that. Like, I
Yes.
love the aquatic theme of that, but that's some bullshit.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a small dungeon, but it's packed with so many enemies. It's just absolutely ridiculous trying to get through it.
Yeah, so this one
So
lands firmly in dog shit tier.
yeah, gosh, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever seen a single person in my life give a compliment to that module.
Yep. Okay, moving on from
Seriously.
that. Ooh, here's a good one.
What module was it? Sorry, I had a BRB.
A Horde of the Dragon Queen. I've never seen anybody give a compliment to a Horde of the Dragon Queen.
I've heard a couple people run it, but I haven't heard whether or not they enjoyed it.
Well, you would have heard it if somebody enjoyed it.
Okay, moving on from that. Here's a good one. Out of the Abyss.
The Abyss. Now, this is one where the GM does have to do work, but what's in here is good. Where you joined my Out of the Abyss game towards the end of it.
I joined
and,
way late into the game.
and Ryan didn't get to check it out at all, but
No, but
Ryan knows about it.
I've played, I've ran, and I've played in Out of the Abyss. I loved it.
And yep, you're into this game, you like it. And there is so much stuff in there. This is a game that focuses less on the overall arching narrative, because when you look at the narrative, you say, well, why is nothing being done about Lolth? And that kind of like puts a plot hole in the story. But this is more about the moments, like the moment-to-moment stuff that happens in the Underdark. Because this is a hex crawl where I do say lower the time you spend hex crawling. I mean, if you play that straight, you're going to have sessions, like 5 sessions back to back, where it's nothing but traveling, and that can get very bothersome and cumbersome. So cut down on that. But the cities you encounter, where Velkin Valve is always the highlight of somebody who's playing this game for the first time, given that that is an unapologetic meat grinder that you have to escape from. If you try fighting the Drow head to head, you will get your ass beat.
Yeah, the Drow are fucking scary.
It's designed for you to lose, and you have 10 cannon fodder NPCs that you can just throw in front of these guys. Now, depending on which ones survive, you'll get plot points later down the road. As for this character survived, you get to do this with them. This character survived, you get to do that with them. Topsy and Turvy are pretty much mandatory to keep alive, not because they're kids, but because when you finally get to Blingdenstone, and you find out that, oh, the rare rat lycanthropy that they have, that was given to them by their father, and the plot point that brings up, and the character drama that can bring up, it's so good when you keep them alive. Along with that stool, the prince, so many NPCs in here that if you keep them alive for the entire time, and you manage to get to their destination with all of them, dude, you can have so much fun with all the NPCs in there, because all the NPCs like have a set personality, and all of them have motivation, and it feels like you're traveling with a group if some of these NPCs survive. Now, here's the thing: the random encounter table in here pretty good, but I would say you do need Xanthos Guide Everything if you want to keep the encounters feeling fresh. I mean, if you keep rolling the D20 and you keep landing on 10 every now and then, your party's eventually going to get skeptical as to, like, why is so much of this in the dungeon? When, yeah, you're probably going to need a D100 table or find homebrew tables to keep some of those encounters interesting.
Yep.
But you can go to different places, and Grackle Stew is fun, Slubru Dop is fun. Grackle Stew is very interesting because you're dealing with the world's angriest dwarves, and you have to watch everything you say around these guys in order to just get out of the city alive. And if everything goes well and you manage to get these guys on your side, then it's going to be a blessing that's going to follow you for the rest of the game. But I think the big highlight for me, Ryan, let me know if this is the same for you too, was Neverlight Grove. And
To be fair, I
You're
don't
right.
think I've ever made it that far.
You never made it that far.
I joined too late
Alright.
for that, I think.
All right. Well, shit. All right. Well, there's a reason this whole settlement gets a cameo whenever you play Dungeon of Mad Mage. Where here, let me show you what this map looks like. Now, this is a civilization of Myconids. They're already very interesting in the world of D&D 5e, given that they all talk with each other telepathically, and they have a society that's very similar to authoritarian communism. And you wonder, like, how exactly do they work over this? But it turns out, oh no, you're doing this because it's the best chance of survival in a world that's as harsh as the Underdark. But you encounter a wizard down here, Basidia, Sovereign Basidia, and he is so cool for a mushroom. And you get to team up with this guy, and you find out that Zutmoy is hiding in one of their trees, and you have this massive boss fight with a CR-23 monster. But this guy, he has your back and he's helping you the entire time. And if you get through that, if you survive that encounter, that will feel so good defeating Zutmoy. It feels so good running that encounter straight and it working. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much good stuff in this game, and you've got a choice of 8 different demon princes that you want to make your main villain. I mean, they're all in the Underdark at the same time, but you can pick one to focus on. And when we ran the Abyss, Grast was the guy that we focused on, and my party hated Grast by the time we finally got to fight him. And his boss fight and his death was one of the highlights of the entire game. Because by the time, like, all this time he spent torturing the party and how personal he got, it felt so good for, like, Ham in particular to finally take down Grast. And immediately after he died, Baphomet took the role as lead villain. Not because he was adversarial against the party, but because the party made a pact with him in order to ensure that they would survive all the way to Mitsubaranton. And it was
I think I
working the
was
best you
there
could
for
with
that part.
Yeah, with a demon that you signed a pact for, and trying the best you can to work through it. And the way that game ended, he's still alive, and he's still in the Underdark.
I thought he got blown up by Lolth.
No, that wasn't enough to kill him.
Yeah, and then I wound up just like, playing our ally. Hey, Lathander, come down here and help us.
There it is. We just got to summon a god for that final fight.
That was
And,
fucking
yeah,
awesome.
I did a lot of tinkering with it, and we brought in a fight with not just Lolth, but Pale Knight, because I did a lot of reading into D&D 3e. And I said, let's go ahead and let's throw both these characters in here. And that was a hell of a ride for a final boss, but we did it right, and we ended the campaign on a massive high note.
Yeah, we did.
Ryan, how about you? I'm sure you've got some ideas.
No. I
Nope,
think
no ideas.
you overestimate my my knowledge about certain things.
Get a Fenris or Rune brain.
There we go.
Yep.
Okay, so Out of the Abyss is based, right?
Yes,
Yep.
we're putting that in top tier. This is the good module.
Yes.
Yeah.
Play Out of the Abyss, it's
Right.
fun. I can
I wholeheartedly recommend somebody playing Out of the Abyss.
I'm a little biased on this one, but I know for a fact that my DM has done a fuckload of homebrewing for this one. Storm King's Thunder.
All right, we're putting this in dog shit. Automatically. I have been in 5 of these games, and all of them have collapsed after the first giant fight.
Really? After the first
Where-
giant fight?
Yes, after the first fight, you have a giants like in either Tribor or Golden Fields. I keep wanting to go to Brinchander, but nobody ever wants to go to Brinchander because it's too far away. It's like I don't care. It's Icewind Dale. I like that as a setting. I want to go there. But no, I guess we're going to go to Golden Fields, and we're going to have to fight the easy, predictable hill giants, and I'm going to be bored out of my skull for that giant boss fight.
See, here's the thing. It's like how my DM has it set up is that the Worm Skull ordering, the giant cast system has been thrown in disarray by the death of the queen of the storm giants and the disappearance of the king. Meanwhile, all the Baroness of the Cloud Giants is vying for power of the throne. All the same time, she has completely ignored the strength of the cast, where the fire giants are trying to construct a obsidian construct that will lead them to devour the world. The ice giants are looking for the ring of eternal winter to bask the world in a never-ending ice age, and the hill giants wants to eat and destroy. But the thing is that what was great about that is my character Colt was from Golden Fields. He'd sown his seeds there. He raised his family there, which gave us a reason to want to go there after leaving Nightstone. But how the tension was built up so beautifully over that time, where we got to see the ruins of Nightstone and the Nightstone missing. And that was like a huge plot point. I mean, I know my DM homebrewed that part, at least, where the fire giants have more to do in the game than just be, pieces of shit. But then when we got to Golden Fields, it wasn't just the hill giants we were fighting. The fire giants showed up and were looking for like another piece of the obelisk there, and managed to find it. And we knew it's like quite literally 3 of us almost died in that fight, and we were, I think, like level 3 or 4. It was a nerve-wracking battle, and from my character's perspective, I had to watch my hometown get destroyed by 2 giants coming down on top of us. It was a terrifying fight. If your DM can sell it, then yeah, play this module. Even though like the material itself inside the module requires a lot, and I mean a fucking lot of prep work, because my DM for this game works her ass off to make this work, and I'm so glad that she did, because I love what she's done with it.
If you're a dungeon master, it's got like 3 hours to prepare for encounters, then yes, you can run Storm King's Thunder. But if you run this the way the book has designed it, it's going to fall apart. Because just the plot it has for you, so much stuff in here just happens. It just happens. I mean, you have the Goblin encounter. Okay, now the Zentarum are here. Okay, the Zentarum encounter is over. Okay, there's Zephyros in the sky. Okay, there he goes. Okay, now you gotta go fight giants. Okay, the giants are gone. Here's Harshnag. You got to fight. Okay, you get to deal with Harshnag. You have to travel all the way over to the giant temple. Okay, now there's the Blue Dragon villain. And so much stuff here just happens. And I'm wondering, if the Ordning is gone, and so many of these giants, like every giant except for one, is evil in alignment, why are we not using this as a chance to smite the giants off the face of the planet? Why is that not a thing? And why are we trying to restore the Ordning? And why aren't we just trying to, force all the other giant tribes into a point of submission where they have to start either obeying human society, or when the Storm King finally returns, that everyone is beneath the Storm Kings and all of them are equal in terms of lowness. Why are we trying to restore a status quo is something that I just do not get with Storm King's Thunder.
It was because the status quo kept the rest of the giants rampaging across the frontier. It was that cast that kept them in line.
And the other question is, where the fuck are the dragons in all this? I mean, this takes place canonically right after Rise of Tiamat. So dragons are still everywhere. And there's not a single metallic dragon that's out there that wants to take a piece of the giants. I mean, these guys are mortal enemies. And on top of that, and Nam Allfather sucks. You should hate this guy. You should want to see his legacy destroyed. Start fighting and hunting giants. So why are we spending this so much time working with giants when things are just going to go right back to being bad and being shitty for everybody?
Well, so far in the game that I've ran, pretty much every giant we've talked to, save for Zephyros and Harshnag, have been just unfathomably evil. All they have done is destroy and loot and pillage. But bear in mind, they're also giants. The majority of the people in the frontier are not adventurers. We quite literally in our game, as I was saying at the start of the video, had to assemble an entire army from Tribor in order to lead an attack against the hill giants of all things. We literally had an army of 150 men at our backs in order to carry this fight.
In order to fight the fat fetish enemy.
Yes. And and quite literally, like they took heavy losses during that because it was a war. It is an honest to God war. But bear in mind, this is also following there's I think the war of the, oh God, I'm forgetting what the lore term was for it, like the battle between Silver Moon and Tribor. I think it's War of the Silver Moons, I think is what it was called.
Yeah, that was it.
But that, so it's like that's another reason is that a lot of the cities in the frontier were less likely to trust each other and form a unified front against the giants because there's still a lot of high tension between them all, which helps sell the setting of like people are very much in a every man to themselves kind of idea, which makes it more important to the party to want to get people to work together on this, be it the destruction of the giants entirely or the eventual restoration of the ordning in order to prevent further attacks.
Your game is doing that. What you end up doing in here is that you just gotta find King Hecaton as soon as possible. And so much of this is like paint by number storytelling, where you go to Zephyros, you have his tower, you fly around on that tower until you get an airship, and then you fly around the airship, and then you just do so much stuff with this. I mean, the entire northern Sword Coast is the map for this adventure, but you don't get to visit any of these towns. You go to Luskan, and that's about it. And the Nightstone at the start of the game, that doesn't come up again. Why do these giants want to be in charge, and should some of these giants be in charge? That's never really explored. I mean, the stone giants you encounter have an argument. You can talk with them, and it's going to result in a fight regardless, but they have a point to why they want to take control of giant society, and it could be better if they're in charge. But you don't really get to explore that. And the only real praise I can sing about this is that there are some very good maps in Storm King's Thunder. All except for one. If you were unfortunate enough to go to Svardborg as your mission for the We Gotta Find the Conch segment, if you went to the Ice Giants for that, God bless you for doing that combat encounter, because you are on a ice ring, donut ring, surrounded by water, no man's land.
Yeah.
Where the giants walk over the houses, crawl over the houses, walk right up to you, and then smush you.
See, we had to go into the Fae.
And there are some genuinely good designs in here, because the fire dungeon, Iron Slag, that is got such tight design. I really like that dungeon.
We aren't quite there yet, but I'm excited for that.
And it's huge, and there's so much stuff. Because you have this massive battle map that's like the exterior, and you find out, oh, that's just the exterior. Here's this elevator where, behold, you've got this massive factory. And it's so good. It's such a good dungeon. And the Cloud Giant dungeon is pretty good too, considering how high the stakes are, because at any point a Cloud Giant can just, I don't know, pick you up and then throw you off the castle. And then there goes that combat encounter.
I am really glad one of the people in our party is a is an Asimar.
You can have a lot of fun with this, but oh my god, the work that GM has to put into this.
Yeah, yes, but I thank God that I have such a good GM for this game. We are 2 years in, and we have only fought the hill giants. Like, we've battled one fire giant and won. And that was sort of like our intro fight to fire giants. But yes, we still have a long ways to go for this game.
Any thoughts from Ryan? Nope.
Ryan.
Nope.
I was muted. No, not really. You guys said everything, really.
Yep. I realized that Spelljammer isn't on here. Oh wait, no, yeah, it is. There we go. I see it. I was worried about that because I had.
Without you looking at Spelljammer, do you want to do Spelljammer?
No. We'll keep going in order.
All right, let's do it. All right,
so
what's next?
Coming up next after Storm King is we have Tales from the Yawning Portal. And of
All right,
course,
now
you have
this-
Mr. Dubois here from fucking what was it? From Disco Elysium.
Durnan. Uh, it's Durnan, and this is an anthology where this is just a bunch of maps in here, a bunch of dungeons where your dungeon keeper or your dungeon master says, "Hey, we don't have an adventure. Here's your adventure." They just throw it up in front of you, and this is fun because all of these dungeons are so tightly designed. The DM I played his game on Tuesday uses these maps, and so many of them are just so fun to get into. Sunless Citadel. If I say anything about it, I can't say anything about it that somebody else hasn't already said. I mean, Sunless Citadel is good. It's a good dungeon, but you've got so much other stuff in here too, like Dead and Thay, against the giants, and the Ball Buster that is White Plume Mountain. And then you have Tomb of Horrors, where you get to find out just how poor old D&D design was, and yeah, it's here for a history piece. But Yawning Portal has got so much fun stuff in it, and for a game where you don't need to worry that much about leveling, I mean, the dungeons tell you what level you need to be when you're thrown into them. It's really solidly designed. I'd say you can either buy the whole compilation or just buy an individual dungeon. They're all on sale individually on Roll20. Yeah, just go ahead and put this in top tier.
Okay, Tales from the Yawning Portal, top tier. Good look at good. Okay, damn.
Yeah, I really like it. I can't say anything bad about it.
Yep. Moving on from that, we have The Rise of Tiamat.
Also in dog shit for the same reasons behind Horde of Dragon Queen.
Just bullshit level design, too much shit thrown in it.
It's a direct sequel to Horde of the Dragon Queen with all the design flaws involved.
That sucks. Like no lessons were learned from Horde of the Dragon.
Yeah, because they released them simultaneously is why.
Oh.
That
yeah.
Once you finish Horde of the Dragon Queen, you're to immediately go into Rise of Tiamat.
Yeah.
And all the stuff we already said about Horde of Dragon Queen applies to Rise of Tiamat. We don't need to go into it.
Yeah, it's basically like a shitty version of if you've played Doom 2, you've played Doom 1.
Yep.
Okay.
But there's a difference between Doom and Doom Eternal.
Well, no, I'm talking about like the original Doom 1995 and then Doom 2 in Hell on Earth in 1995 also.
Well, I was talking about 2016 Doom.
No. I mean, I've been playing Doom Eternal recently, and they added a lot in Doom Eternal. Now that I can like see it at decent graphics and frame rates, there's so much more to manage in Doom Eternal. Like Doom 2016 was very generous with your ammo, which I actually kind of like a little bit better. Like, I understand the whole point is to like speed up the pace of combat, make it more frantic, make it more difficult. But when I love the guns in Doom Eternal, but I run out of ammo so frequently, and that's why they gave you a chainsaw that recharges to replenish your ammo more often. But a lot of the time you find yourself just like rapidly swapping between weapons to the point where you can't really use them as effectively anymore. And it kind of kills the gameplay variety a little bit. Where Doom 2016, every weapon felt unique and viable. And I kind of want to go back and play it for context, in all honesty. But anyway, off topic. Moving on from that, we have Tomb of Annihilation.
Speaking of unique, Tomb of Annihilation.
Yes.
Now, Ryan, Ryan's played this one.
It was when I first started DMing, and I wasn't particularly good, but I love it because there's no coming back.
The whole premise of the Death Curse, where spells like Revivify and Raise Dead are completely off the table. You just can't use those spells. And
really?
You've got a Sararak, who is using a dead fetus god to cast a massive spell that's going to turn him into an all-powerful Lich King. And you've got to go into the jungles of Chult and find him and stop him from casting and completing the spell. And you're on a time limit with this game. The game just gets harder as it goes along. And you've got so much fun window dressing with this. I mean, you've got like these tiki goblins in here, where to post their picture look like this, and just like the character in this, like look at this dude.
Is that three
Such
kobolds standing on top of each other?
Yes.
four goblins,
Oh, that's funny.
and they're all on this little. They're forming a totem pole, and it's like all this like fun window dressing. It's like all like savage jungle tribal theme. Like if you've seen stuff like the exploitation movies like Cannibal Holocaust or Green Inferno, this is what it feels like, where it's just an unapologetic, ugly jungle filled with shit that's going to kill you. And it feels like the stakes are high at all times, where even though you play D&D to relax, there's very little time to relax in this game, given just how brutal some of the design is on purpose. Where every time you go into a new area, it's not, oh, wow, a new area. It's, oh, no, a new area. What's in here?
What is lurking around the corner that could fuck our day up today?
There is one city in particular. You've got to find this place. It is hidden somewhere on a random tile in the map. The lost city of Omu. And when you go in here, this is the encounter that ties the dungeon, the entire game together. Where you go into here and you find out about the 9 gods of Chult. Yeah, this is what that's what the sea looks like, and it's so sick looking already. But then you learn like all like the lost lore of Chult from this place, and it feels like you're discovering a lost empire. And there's just so much stuff in this game that's just so cool. But if there's one issue the game has, it really is just how difficult the combat encounters are.
Yeah. This is a game that's made, like Strahd, it is made to kill you.
There are so many levels in here that are ball busters. There is a dwarven forge that's taken over by salamanders, and I think that's the one easy encounter because you can bottleneck it. And then when you actually get to the Tomb of the 9 Gods, holy hell is some of the stuff a ball buster to get through. Especially Gears of Hate, which has a whole shtick of you're on gear platforms that rotate, which you can't really convey all that well in a D&D setting, but you learn just how quickly that messes up your positioning, and it is so difficult to finally reach a Sararak, but by the time you finally get to him, you have this massive combat encounter with this like CR20 Lich, and it's so awesome to play this game. It's so awesome to play this game. I got to be a player in this as a lizard folk druid, and it was a great experience.
Given that Atlantis the Lost Empire is one of my favorite, if actually my favorite Disney film of all time, I feel like I would fucking love this game.
Take that and replace it with unapologetic visceral horror, and that's the kind of game you have.
So it's like, it is very much like Atlantis meets Indiana Jones meets Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah.
Yeah, like more emphasis on like Crystal Skulls.
Yeah, that sounds fucking awesome.
And yeah, this is a game we're putting in based. I mean, Tomb of Annihilation has got very solid design. It's funny that the games that are dungeon crawlers, that are hex-based dungeon crawlers, are the best ones.
Yeah,
So
Out of
far,
the
yeah.
Abyss, Vanishing Portal, or Yawning Portal, and Tomb of Annihilation so far.
Yeah.
I feel like Johnny's a bone to pick with this one, and I only got to play like half of it, I think. Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden.
Now, this is
I wasn't
another
able
game
to
that
play it.
attracts. Yeah, you're saying, Grim? Ryan?
I haven't been able to play it.
For whatever reason, this is another game that attracts the most brain dead of players on Roll20. Where I think this is. I ran this game, and that was the one and only time that I legit lost my cool with the group I was playing with.
I was in that
Where-
group, Lamau.
No, it wasn't you. It was a different group.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I ran this before, and it was back when I was first started GMing, and I didn't really know what I was doing, and that the game fell apart because I gave you guys too much magic items. But this was a game I was in. where the players, by their own ignorance, made a setting in a town worse, and then did something that never asked me this. Asked to redo the session for next week. And I started off that Discord call extremely angry with all of them. And I think that was the first time I've ever raised my voice at players, was when I was running across
Why did
me.
they want to redo the
And
session?
because they weren't paying attention to the NPCs and accidentally killed a kobold NPC, thanks to the ignorance of one of the players, where they said, "Oh, I'm just going to knock this guy out," and they say that while shooting firebolt at them.
But I,
Jesus.
Read the room, you idiot. That's a lethal spell.
dumbass.
Yeah. So it was thanks to them and just like bad roleplay all around that just led to them wanting to redo a session. I said, "No, this was your fault. It turned out this way, and you will roll with a punch." And that game eventually just collapsed 5 sessions later because I just couldn't take the stupidity anymore.
From one of the things that I thought was really fucked about this game was like we were very low level when I was playing it with you and everybody else we had then, but the narrative of the game starts really, really late for some reason.
This is a game that has no story. There is no story in this game.
None
It
whatsoever.
It is Skyrim, the adventure module. It is nothing but side quests, side quests, side quests, until you finally get to level 8, and then Auril comes into the plot. And the rest of the game is dedicated to finding Auril. But besides that, it really is just RPG grinding the game.
Yeah, I
And-
mean, I love the setting of Icewind Dale. It's just a bitter, just cold, dense environment with a couple of very nice, cozy refuges away from just the brutal Icewind Dale landscape. Like, I love Icewind Dale as a setting, but
And I played the PC game, like the old RPG that came out in the 90s. That's the game I played. And I thought this was going to have like a continuation of that, where I said, "Oh, we're going to bring up the whole demon summoning crisis of Icewind Dale." And no, that never comes up. No.
yeah,
You got to reference Baldur's Gate, you didn't get referenced to Icewind Dale.
Icewind Dale has so much potential, but it is hampered by the absolutely nothing plot and just the absurd player level limit to start the actual story.
Not every side quest in here is built equal, because Lonelywood and Caradenival in particular suck. Where Lonelywood has you fighting a Verbeeg, where that's already a very tall ask for a party that is either level 1 or 2 by the time you're doing that quest. And then Caradenival is asking you to do a full-on siege against a fortress that's been taken over by an evil tiefling. And the sheer amount of enemies you have to go through, along with the massive vantage point they have as you're trying to approach it, you're going to get your ass beat doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see how you can do that legit without the GM helping you the entire time. And then by the time you're done with that, like Kara Koenig is fine. There is one side quest in here that I think is legitimately good, and that's the one you get to have with Targos, where you have to climb the mountain and find out what happened to the mining party that died.
And it was like it was a family of Yetis, right?
Yeah, you have to go with like the Yetis, and that can either go
that encounter
peaceful or
fucked.
violent.
That was awesome.
Yeah. That one's good, and then you have Goodmead. You have to worry about the mead of Goodmead. And see, did I get these? No, it's Goodmead. Goodmead is the one that has the issue with the Verbeeg. It's Lonelywood has something else. Let me actually tell you what Lonelywood has. I got my modules mixed up. I'm sorry. No, Lonelywood is still bad because that's the one with the Elvish Tomb. Where let's throw a druid at the party at level 1. Let's throw an evil druid at the party. That's definitely going to be a fixed in combat balanced encounter, along with a Winterwolf boss fight.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
TPK, here we go. There's one more in here that I think is good. see, where is it? Is it you, Dugan's Hole? Is it you? Yeah, it's Dugan's Hole with the fresh giant lodge. And what a nail biter this can be if your players drop the ball with this one.
Yep.
Because you're doing a home invasion on a giant with that one.
Yeah, so in short, Icewind Dale, great setting, way too many just nothing side quests, with a couple of really good ones sprinkled in between, and then just a plot that takes way too long to get where it needs to go.
But if you want to be Skyrim, you accomplished it, because Skyrim is a game where you abandon the main story and then just go off and dig around in the world of Skyrim.
Basically.
That's the same with Icewind Dale. And if you want to just deflate the stakes of your games module, you did it so well, because it feels like there's no reason to go after our will. There's no reason to get into shit done. There's no real horror to the setting, even though you're trying to be horrific. It's not scary. And this is going to cringe. This is going to cringe.
Yep. Tomb of Annihilation does everything you do, but better.
Yep.
All right,
I love with that. If you like a whole bunch of environments that look the exact damn same, play Icewind Dale. I sure hope you like the colors white and blue.
Yep. Why can I not copy this one here? I'm trying to copy
Is it
this
the Essentials kit?
Yeah, it's the Essentials kit.
Okay, so don't worry too much about this one. It's another anthology where it's a series, a compilation of different dungeons, but it's made for low level. It's levels 1 to 7, ultimately dealing with this asshole white dragon that's just causing terror around the same area as Phandalin. You do get to see Phandalin kind of develop after Lost Mines of Phandelver, which is always cool. And it's okay. It's just mid. Just put it in mid tier. It's just
Mid.
like a very mid. Nothing to really talk about with this one.
All right. Next up, then, Dungeon of the Mad Mage.
Right. I'm running this game right now. I'm running
I have
Dungeon of the
this
Mad
book.
Mage. You were saying, Ren?
I think I have that book.
Yeah. And
Nope, it's Waterdeep.
oh yeah, Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. And that's what it is. And
No, I have the
This-
heist one.
this book is super fun. It is so fun to play this one, because this is a Beer and Pretzels group full-blown dungeon dive. You have 23 levels. Now, for all the people complaining, should the Undermountain have more? Do you really want to go through a module that is 100 floors of dungeon?
I mean, that's
Do
what
you really
Curse of
wanna do
Strahd
that?
in the end game is, so... I mean, like,
But-
already I'm in Storm King's Thunder, and our DM built a dungeon in the Fae that's like 58 rooms, and we've just finished session 2 of just nothing but dungeon.
Dungeon
Module
crawl.
is this dungeon's fun as hell, because there's so much little stuff in here. Every floor is a self-isolated adventure, where it's all the Undermountain, but every floor is its own biome. Because you have floor 1, which is the dungeon level, where it's a little dungeon where people have gone through this dungeon several times already, and so much stuff has already been plundered and explored. And it feels like you're already entering a world, like you're entering a challenge, because you can see evidence of other people. And then you go into Arcane Chambers, level 2, where you immediately go into a village of goblins, where it's like a legit burger shop in the dungeon that you can buy sandwiches from.
That's funny as shit.
It's this little fun. And then immediately after that is a level filled with water traps, with a drow dungeon in the middle of it, and you get to have an encounter with sea hags and drow priestesses. And then immediately after that is the Twisted Caves, so you go into this horribly polluted shithole water dungeon. After that is Willowwood, where, behold, the ceiling of the dungeon disappeared for a bright sunny sky as you go through this deadly forest, where you've got this sniper druid who's sitting in a tower sniping you for the entire dungeon. And then immediately after Willowwood, you get to go all the way to the Lost level, which is filled with mummies and Umberhulks. And say, I wish this game was a little bit harder. Don't worry, because we've got Mad Goth's Castle right after that, which opens with you walking through a dungeon that's filled with stone giants. And the stone giants have a little miniature castle that they have. and you can drink a shrink potion, go in the castle and explore it, and it turns out, oh, there's an entirely like part 2 dungeon inside this castle that we get to explore. And it's so packed with content. This is a game that I'm doing next to no preparation for, because so much of this stuff, the way it's written, is so good, and I can just pop this stuff out whenever with no need to worry about anything making sense, because this is like self-isolated adventures tied together by the Intermountain. It's such a fun time to run, and I am 100% satisfied with my purchase. I really like Dungeon of the Mad Mage.
This
makes you
sounds like such
wonder-
a fun. What? Go ahead.
It makes you wonder whether or not the same. Different people wrote these games, different modules.
It kind of feels like it, because so many of these dungeons are completely different. Because Dreamer Core, where this game has 2 very distinct difficulty spikes, and those are Moirol's Lair, and I think it is Runestone Caverns, where I know that's the 4th to last floor, but that place is just so horrible as a player.
Yeah.
And Moirol, this guy is such a bastard, because he doesn't stay dead, and he's got the dreaded Turn to Stone spell, which you're level 5, and unless you knew he was going to have that, you won't have Greater Restoration prepared. So that is an anus-clenching fight when you go into Moirol.
Yes.
And you have to fight that guy. You have to fight that guy 5 times before that dungeon ends.
What the hell? 5?
He doesn't
Yep.
stay dead. That's his
That's
gimmick.
fucking crazy.
He's a
So
lich.
enjoy the most tense Constitution saves of your life as you go through that floor.
If you don't have protection from good and evil or enhance ability, you're fucked.
Yeah.
No, he's a drow. He's a drow.
Yes.
Yes, that spell doesn't work on him.
No, wait, really?
Oh,
That doesn't work on him.
wait.
Yeah, protection
No,
of
I
evil
can't
and good. Yeah, he's not a fae. He's a humanoid.
No, that works on a creature type of your choosing.
That doesn't include humanoid. We're
Really?
pulling up protection of evil and good right now.
I'm
Yeah,
doing that
hold
now.
up. Hold on, I'll put it up so everybody.
Certain types of creatures, aberrations, celestials, elementals, fays, fiends, and undead.
No humanoids. No humanoids.
Who is it again?
Moirol, who is a drow.
Drow humanoid. Interesting.
Yeah. So that doesn't work on him.
Yeah. All right, that makes sense though. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
based, I imagine.
Parliament, no, he is a monstrosity.
Oh, yeah. So
It's
it would
still,
work.
Still not a.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Still not an option.
yeah. So, yeah, you gotta fight that guy 5 different times, and so many enemies in this dungeon, because my party has a loose relationship with Halster Blackcloak, because at random points in the dungeon, he'll just drop in with like a bag of popcorn in his hand and say, "Hey, buddy, how's the dungeon crawl doing?" And then he dips right after he shows up.
That's kind of funny.
So yeah, if you like, you might be thinking like there's a little roleplay to do here. No, there is a ton of stuff to do here. Dog, my party went through. Let's see, I'm looking for it. Floor 7 with Madgoth's castle, and there is a fairy dragon hidden in this floor that you can have the most beautiful conversations with. And there is so many opportunities for roleplay here between all the different dungeon crawling. And my favorite part about D&D is exploring dungeons. It's the exploration aspect. So, boom, this is everything I want in D&D. So, behold, putting in base tier.
Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Okay, moving on.
Dungeon of the Mad.
Moving on from that, we have Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen.
I have not played this one.
There is a good reason why the people that made Dragonlance have been so adamant about refusing to let Wizards of the Coast write for Dragonlance, because they see what they're doing with Ed Greenwood with Forgotten Realms, and how that guy's entire legacy is being shat on and he's being called a racist, and he's being called this transphobe, and all this other shit that non-sequitur shit that doesn't apply to him. Because, dog, this is a guy who wrote a fantasy setting in the 80s and 90s. Let him have his fucking legacy, dude.
Yes.
And given how poorly he's been being treated by Wizards of the Coast and by this shitty little thing we call a fandom, I can see why it took so long for Dragonlance to make an appearance in 5e, because the people that own Dragonlance are fiercely protective of it, even though they technically don't own it because it's Dungeons and Dragons. It's still their setting. They don't want people touching it. And it came out, and no, they didn't do it justice, but they didn't destroy it. So it's still Dragonlance as a setting, but Lord Soth isn't that impressive, and there's a ton of stuff that's missing in here. If you read the Dragonlance books like Sean did, there's some stuff to be disappointed about. But even though it's not a faithful retelling and game that takes place in the world of Dragonlance, there's still enough stuff in it that if you checked out Dragonlance like I did, there's enough to keep you entertained. And looking at it, this is a book that's got no real bullshit. I mean, around the time this came out, not to get super political, but around this time, Wizards of the Coast went full ESG into this. And now these games have become really saccharine, piecemeal soapbox, shouting my opinions on a soapbox in the middle of an Arby's bullshit where, yeah, like, man, this is an Arby's. We didn't come here to listen to your Communist Manifesto book review.
What?
And that you'll see what I mean when we talk about Radiant Citadel. And it's got no bullshit in it, and if you want a fantasy adventure, you get what you paid for. This is a straight fantasy adventure where it stays apolitical. It's you fighting a tyrant, and that's it. I mean, you can say that's political, but that's a trope, dude.
Yeah, that's just, that's just part of high fantasy, really.
And it's got some good artwork in it, because this is that they have the whole team of people that make stuff for Magic the Gathering. And there are a lot of pictures in this. We're just posting one in Game Chat. There's a lot of pictures in this that look fan-fucking-tastic, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, this is just like a simple... This is just one picture, and it's so good. The artwork in this book is so good.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it does.
And this, the character design, the environments, the maps, so much of this is so good. And they have their own unique Sorcerer classic it's added in. I mean, you did not have to go this hard with the pictures. But here's another one, and this is one that's got me genuinely impressed. This picture about the guys on the horses.
That looks so good. It looks like it should be in a fucking game.
Yeah, that's all hand-drawn.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I love this, and this is what chaps my ass about Chains of Asmodeus, because they switched to AI generation after that.
Oh my god.
And yeah,
so the artwork
I'm happy
is
you
good.
artists got paid. Yeah, where if I had if I won the lottery and I wanted to make my own tabletop company, I'd definitely hire you guys. But
well, thank you.
Yeah. Until I win that scratch card or I get that lottery ticket, and yeah, it's not going to happen.
You're off to a good start with 3.5.
I like that. I like this. This is what it was with Dragonlance. It's fast food fantasy. It's not Lord of the Rings, but it's just a fun high fantasy adventure, and that's all you really need. And I'm going to say it's not based, but it's high tier.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good. This is just a good game.
I know.
Yeah, man.
What's up?
I got one more picture to send.
Okay. I want to play all these games
now. Now the question is she really a woman? You look at the arms and the rest of her. She looks like no woman I have ever seen.
It's still pretty cool, though. Look at that.
It's a straight lady.
That's one of the coolest tree outs I've ever seen. That's fucking awesome.
So much of this book is great, but it doesn't go all the way with Dragonlance, which is why it's not based.
Okay. I'm a little bit biased, but I also know that you did a fuckload of homebrewing for this one. That I actually helped homebrew part of this one. I am, of course, talking about
Yes.
Spelljammer, Adventures in Space.
Spelljammer.
I am a sucker for sci-fi. I love sci-fi.
I loved Spelljammer as well.
Spelljammer was so much fun. Oh my good lord. I left halfway through because I had some obligations with college, but I got to play like 2 gunslinger characters back to back, and it was just so cool exploring all these different worlds, meeting all these different civilizations, having all these cool weapons, having all these wild ships. It was just so much fun playing Spelljammer. I loved it.
Yes. Now let's get the elephant out of the room first. Yes, we know ship-to-ship combat is terrible in this game. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, we can actually talk about the story itself. And now Kyle,
Plasmoids.
Yes.
you remember Prince Zelith.
Yes, I do remember Prince
Yeah.
Zelith.
Now, for the most part, I ran his character straight, where most of what you saw that I did with him, that was in the book already.
He was broken.
Yeah, where this was a guy that now that whole angel form that he could do, I added that in just to make him a little bit more impressive. But his motivation and his character by itself, I kept that the same. And in case you're wondering what I mean with angel form, I gave him an extra form where he turns into like this giant. I based it off of the solar stat block where he becomes this gigantic angel made out of fire, just because I think the Rings of Xerxes should do a little bit more. But his character of using his dying star as an excuse for military expansionism is what he does in this book. And Prince Zelith might be my favorite villain I've ever run in a TTRPG.
He is a very he genuinely cares about keeping his people alive, but he's going about it like in just such a violent and knee-jerk way, to the point where it makes sense. He's built to be irrational, which is exactly what a tyrant in a dying kingdom would do. It's perfect.
He is in a bad situation, and what you're just going to let an entire solar system die. But at the same time, this guy is using that as an excuse to start destroying other people's galaxies. And you went from being a sympathetic villain to a full-blown villain that doesn't recognize that he is a villain. And
Yeah,
that is what makes Prince Zelith work so well as a villain.
he
Where I want to say like the villain himself carries the entire module. And with Spelljammer, there's so much stuff you can do with random encounters, and you can kind of decide what ship you want to have at the start of the game, where after you get picked up and you're taken over to the Barker Brawl, if you pay out the nose, you can leave with a different ship. And there is a massive crew that can join you where you just get NPC after NPC dropped in your lap over the course of the game. Now, I swapped out those NPCs for characters that I want to add in myself, and that made the game just a little bit more fun because I added in Sheffield and Sugar, and you remember both those guys, and those guys were a delight for you guys to interact with.
Sheffield was a great workhorse in combat, and Sugar was a massive plot point that it probably is going to inspire a later novel that I will write.
And on top of that, we had so many other NPCs join the crew too, because you remember we added in Lei Bai Shin, who was like a little panda alien that we added in.
Yes.
And having like a guy be like that level-headed and how we interacted with our druid. And you can... This is a game that just says, if you want to do anything in regards to homebrew, you're going to drop that situation in your lap. You're in space. Do whatever you want. I mean,
yeah,
the world is your oyster. But at the
John-
same time,
good.
there is a lot of stuff missing in terms of Spelljammer because the Phlogistans are missing and the Realm Sphere rules are missing, and it feels like you guys just did not read through third edition D&D, which, does anybody on the current Wizards of the Coast staff remember third edition at all?
Yeah,
But
probably not.
besides that, it's still a fun space opera.
Yeah. I grew up on Star Wars. I love sci-fi just because you can do basically anything. You can go anywhere. And John actually did come to each of us and like have us build not only a world but like a galaxy for our characters to inhabit. And that's what inspired me to write a book in the first place. Was being able to build not only my character but build a world around him that we actually got to go and visit and interact with NPCs that we wrote. And really make like every world feel unique and alien. Like visiting Lei Bai Shin's planet, which was one of the ones that John developed in the galaxy that I was giving Velvet Space, and he lived on Anas, didn't he? Or was
Yeah, which was it was this gigantic planet where the trees and plant lights were alive and connected by a single thought. And you would see the galaxy, the entire planet, change shape depending on the mood of the plants. And everyone on that planet was a pacifist because there was no need for war. It was a perfect paradise.
yeah? It was such a
And
unique
the
world.
only reason Lei ever left that planet was because he wanted to see what the rest of the galaxy looked like. He wanted to know, well, I live in a utopia, but I want to see what other madness exists out there in order to make the
Crazy.
utopia feel more special.
He was going on a spiritual journey, which was a really neat really neat side quest for him. But it was also really funny watching our fucking nut job Kitsune companion Fox, Hikudo, threatened to like burn everything he looked at, and Kip was like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, our Australian friend Gary and our Russian friend Fox were part of that game, and we had one more guy who played Leah, who was our druid, and he was like a single serving friend. Like he was just there for the module. He's off because he couldn't like afford to play D&D anymore, and like God bless that man. I hope he's doing well because he was a delight to have at the table.
He was just a really nice guy.
Very happy
I
to
miss
play
Lei.
with
He was a really good guy.
And that was a really good like last module to play because I decided like after I played that I said I don't have anything else to say with D&D. I think Lives of Rixus was a great way to end. Granted, I'm still running Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and I'm going to run that game until completion. But I think if you're sick of D&D, if you're getting disenfranchised with D&D, Light of Xerxes is a great way to end it.
Yep, that's like a capstone. Even though my character's arc was kind of left ambiguous, but I'll probably write about that several years from now. After
that
I
was
write,
the intention. I left that open ended so you can have your own full story.
Yeah.
yep, because now a lot of I'll talk about it more at length. But basically, Kip Miller was a private investigator inducted into the Blood Hunters on his planet in order to become a better private investigator that eventually leaves to fight the resistance against the Xerxian Empire. And then even at the end of the game, Princess Zelith, what was not Zelith,
Dolly.
Princess Adali warned Kip, don't go back to Velvet Space, but Kip's like, I gotta go back to the Order. They need to know I'm okay. Only to find out that a deal that Gary's character had made prior had upset the balance of power in the entire galaxy, and now they were at war.
You see this, where homebrew like need to be necessary has been an issue with some of these modules, but with this, it's like a little sandbox where it doesn't feel like the reliance of homebrew is a detriment with this one.
Yeah.
Yes, it adds to it.
Yeah, I played a Plasmoid character named Fix-It.
Oh, that's fucking sick.
Ranger, but he was also a mechanic.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I tried doing a homebrew game, but that took place in Spelljammer. But after I sat in the Discord call for, I was on a stoppage and I timed it. 3 hours and 20 minutes in dead silence. I decided to quit that game.
Yeah.
That's rough.
That's
It's because I
kinda
was like
sad.
third wheeling for the entire game, and I tried to write it out the best I could, but the times I was spending inactive just got longer and longer, and eventually I dipped.
Yeah, but
Um,
the
that,
module as a
that's the
whole.
other
What's up?
that's the other moral of the story. I make for a pretty shitty player, but
We'll see when you play Ends the Road and you have to deal, and I have to keep you and Rapred on a leash for the whole time.
I've been playing a lot of GTA to get into character.
Oh my good lord, this is gonna be rough. All of my fucking NPCs are going to die. All of the Glasswalkers are going to die. You're probably gonna kill a couple of the hounds just because they're getting Fianna. Oh my god, this is gonna be rough. But honestly, Spelljammer, what do we think?
Based.
Based.
I'm saying based.
Put on some clutch in Yuri Gagarin, grab a laser rifle, and go gallivant through the galaxy. Play the fuck out of Spelljammer. That game fucks. Okay, moving on from the high note, we have Keys of the Golden Vault.
Oh yeah, now this game fucking sucks.
I've never played.
No apology whatsoever. This game fucking sucks. Me and Gary were looking at this, and we knew this was going to suck from the Prisoner 13 release that they were doing, because this is a good like high fantasy adventure where we want to get people to like get into the game and want them to play the game. Let's make the most fucking ugly character we can think of, and then have that be the first character you got to release. Where the artwork for this book got bad. It got really bad, and look at the fucking character design for this dude.
What the hell?
What are we looking at right now?
I love how he has like square lips.
That's supposed to be a woman.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, you can't tell, can you?
I cannot. She is gender neutral.
Well,
I might get flack for this, but it kind of reminds me of from the Arcane show. Fuck, what was her name?
V.
Was it V?
Was it?
Same colored hair. She was in prison as well.
Yeah,
it was V.
It was,
yeah.
but I will say, if you were trying to make a prison bitch, you did an accurate job, because that is what women look like in prison.
And how would you know this, John?
I told you about my jailbird friend. Let's not say his name, but
yep.
He said Elsa's birthday, and the guards, for whatever reason, were bringing him into a room that had some of the women in it, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to see some bitches. Oh yeah, this is awesome." And then he went to the room, and he said that encounter almost made him gay.
Oh man!
You'll say like, "Oh, if you like legit say me like, if the women look like this, I'm kind of glad the cells are segregated by gender."
Good lord!
But yeah, so many of these dungeons, I say that as loose as possible, are just a dude's house. It's supposed to be a game where you're doing a heist, where you're part of like a thieves guild, but it's just so much of, here's a house, here's a house, you're robbing a house, here's another house. Oh, you want to do a grave rob? It's inside of a house. You want to go find a magic vault? It's in a house. Here's another house. Here's another house. Just for 9 dungeons, it's just houses. Until you get one heist that's on a train, and that train heist sucks.
That's kind of disappointing, because stagecoach robberies and train robberies are supposed to be fucking cool.
But on top of this is like as close as they've gotten to an evil campaign. This is a group of nothing but chaotic neutral characters, and you can't do anybody lawful for this. You can't do that. And with that, with players want to be chaotic neutral, you're going to get a lot of like asshole sociopath characters, a lot of narcissists playing this game, and eventually it's just going to be a game that encourages shitty player behavior that's eventually going to fall apart.
Yeah. You need to have some like Sly Cooper shit going on.
Yeah, I check out Roll20 regularly just to find RPGs and like Roll20 listings to post. The whole like fucking like cringe ERP that I posted in the server earlier today. That was like from all my searches. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to get it from my webcam in front of a bunch of socially inept nerds.
Yeah, that's
But-
pretty fucked.
But yeah, with this, I mean, like D&D players already kind of suck sometimes, and this is a game where you're just going to get the shittiest players possible. So no, dog shit. I'm not talking about this anymore. It's going to dog shit.
Be gay, do crimes. No, it's dog shit.
No, this is dog shit. Like put it lower than all the other ones. Like as far to the right as you can on that tier.
Here, hang on. Let me go down one. I'll make it blue. I'll add a row below, and I'll just call it.
Yes.
I'll call it Golden Vault.
There it is. Keys to the Golden Vault. Yeah,
Yep.
because this really is just straight terrible. And-
Anything, I'd say I would call it Bronze Vault.
Bronze Vault.
Uh,
Why?
Fool's Gold Vault.
Fool's.
I don't know.
I like that.
Golden Vault sounds great.
Yeah.
Sounds like something
so
I definitely would want to put something in.
I'll call it Fool's Gold Vault.
There you go.
Fool's Gold.
Yep.
Saying
Okay.
You're
Not to
fucking
be
name for
confused with the that one homebrew module that came out.
Next we got ourselves another starter kit.
All right.
Uh,
This is the
Stormwreck.
exact same damn game as Lost Mines of Phandelver. Just put it like mid. Just put it mid.
mid.
There's nothing good about it. There's nothing bad about it. It's just mid.
This is another one where like I had a good experience with it, even though like this is the first character death I've ever had, because I know you also homebrewed a lot of this, but I love the setting. Ghosts of Saltmarsh.
Ghost of Saltmarsh. We're bringing up
Yeah.
Ghost of Saltmarsh. Let me get the music refreshed for this.
Haven't played it.
Right, so for Ghost of Saltmarsh,
I love the setting. Go ahead.
there was a conversation we had to have after it was the dungeon after you had Sharky die, and we sat down. I'm worried this song might be a little too loud, but
No,
Yeah, I
I
think
got
it
the
is too
volume
loud.
on it, so you're good.
okay. So we had to sit down, and this was back when I was still friends with Metal before I cut ties with him. We sat down, Metal, Gary, and Fox, who were my players in that game, and they came up to me and said, "We do not like these dungeons. We do not like the dungeon design in this. We know that you're editing this, but so much of this dungeon design just fucking sucks." And I said, "All right, fine. We don't need to play Ghost of Saltmarsh anymore." So I kept the overall map of Saltmarsh, but the rest of the game from that point forward was all homebrew. And I mean it when I say the dungeon design in this game is atrocious. Looking at this now, even the first level when you're going into Haunted House has got so much to design it. It's just flat out bad. Where that's a game that's got hobgoblins plural waiting for you in the basement, and that is a instant spell for character death because you know just how much damage they deal when they're standing next to each other.
Oh yeah,
A little 2d, and a
They-
2d6 bonus.
that was the one. That was the encounter that killed. What was it? Raprid.
Yeah,
No, not
Reptar, who was- yeah.
Reptar.
Yeah,
Reptar.
Yeah, it was Reptar, who's Metal's character.
Which sucks because
And-
I loved Reptar as a character, and then he had to change it because we used the wrong scroll to resurrect him.
Yeah, you used a raise dead on scroll on him, thinking it was a revivify scroll. Where
I was
he
playing
got
as
stuck-
Sharky, and
Why?
Yeah, he got to spend half the game as a zombie, and then the other half as his usual self, and that became a plot point.
turned
Yeah.
out if I shoved liquor down his throat, then he turned back into his old self.
For like a short time. But yeah, this was a fun game, and part of why we loved it so much is that this is the game where Gary introduced Misfortune. And that Gary stole the damn show when he played as Misfortune.
He
Where-
really did.
Yeah, I couldn't get enough of that character, so I kept her for 2 more games where she kept appearing. But yeah, this is a game that's got some rough dungeon design. You know the dungeon in particular that killed you. That was a salvage operation, where
Yep.
when you step on a specific tile, phase spiders appear behind you, block the door, and you're just spelling character death the minute you have that designed into your game.
Yeah.
But on top of that, the Isle of Abbey has a puzzle in it that just does not make sense. No matter how I explained it to my players, they just did not get it. And that's the Hagen Stronghold was the last game level in this that we played, where it's got a bullshit final boss in it, where you are fighting, I think, 30 Sahuagin of different challenge ratings in the middle of this massive arena, with like this weird like bullshit sea monster in the middle. And after that was the dungeon that like Fox and Nell came up to me and said, "Hey, we're not cool with this." And then I just threw out the rest of these. And looking at them, I'm glad I did, because the Tamarot's Fate was the next one, and I ran half of that. I kept the villa that you do that level in, but I changed what you were there for, because I had it be related to the next plot that we did, which was the Great Dragon Migration, which was the plot that we replaced Ghost of Saltmarsh with. And after that is the Styes, and I looked at the Styes, and you want me to fight 3 aboleths in one room?
Fuck that.
Yeah, you want me to do that? Not happening. Like, even if I was level 20, that's not happening. And yeah, so much of this is just bullshit game design, because you've got enemies that are dealing status effects that fuck you up and keep you fucked up. And it's the same issue with Princess of the Apocalypse, where the design here is just too hard, and it feels like it's made to deliberately screw the player over.
Yeah.
And that just sucks.
It's not even like a fun, horrific, challenging like Tomb of Annihilation. It's just hard. It's overpowered. Like the warp spider was some bullshit.
Yeah, and
I don't know what you're talking about. It sounds like a load of fun.
Shut up.
the phase spider, where
I'm just kidding.
right, that's a spider that goes into the ethereal plane as a bonus action.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
reading it.
Fuck that. That is what killed me. It killed me, and it killed Fox's original character, Snicks.
Snicks.
Yep.
Yeah, well, he did bring in Echo as a replacement, and Echo was so much fun.
I almost TPK'd with imps.
With imps? Wow.
Yeah. The
Change
poison
ability is
damage.
broken.
Yeah. But still, like, I before I died, and I had to leave that game because I needed some time to focus on school, but the time that I was playing as Sharky with Snicks, I loved their dynamic.
Because you were like this like loud, brash, and abrasive lizard folk, and I think the best parts about that game was the time that we spent in Saltmarsh as a town.
Yeah. It was just like an adventuring guild, just like fucking around, just being a bunch of dude bros, pirates. I loved it.
And on top of that, like the political schism that goes on in Saltmarsh, where there's a group that's pro-pirate and against pirate, like pro-imperial and pro-self-sustaining, and that ongoing debate as to whose side are you eventually going to support. The Tuesday game I'm a part of uses Saltmarsh as a setting, but that part's downplayed in it for emphasis for more character drama between PCs. And that's fine, but I would like to talk to Anders Salmore as a character.
Yeah, if I wind up running D&D 5e IRL, I really want to run Ghosts of Saltmarsh, because like I know I'd have to redo a lot of the dungeons, but I love the setting so much. I love pirate fantasy.
Yeah, and it's fantastic, and you have like sea encounters, and this is a book that's completed by Xathar's Guide to Everything, where that was the game that made me realize that how much I loved Xathar's Guide to Everything as a source book, where that's an essential book to own as a dungeon master. You gotta have Xathar's Guide to Everything. And all the encounters we had Fimnan the Bronze Dragon appear in this game, because I kept rolling 66 on the ocean encounter. So we had this Bronze Dragon appear 4 different times throughout the game on a random encounter table. And eventually I said, you know what, fuck it, he's part of the main story now.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
really funny. That's a good way to implement it.
And then this is also the same game I introduced Miles and Zero, where
Miles is a good
yeah,
boy.
this world's smartest white dragon. And he's
Yes,
still an idiot.
he is a fucking dumbass, and I love him. We need to protect him. We need to protect Miles at all costs.
Yeah. And I think like some of our best roleplay too came like just interacting with a random encounter dragon.
Yeah, but
yeah.
overall, like I loved our characters in that. I loved the setting. I love the whole theme, and I really wish that the dungeons were just a little bit better.
Yeah, but the dungeon design is bad enough to bring it down to cringe. It's a sad cringe, but it's cringe.
It's a cringe where it's like you see a kid go up on stage with a violin, and you know that this kid is gonna fucking tear down the house, and then his bow breaks in the middle of the set, and he just starts crying. That's the kind of cringe that goes to Saltmarsh.
I was gonna say it's more like a kid going up on stage and singing Five Nights at Freddy's by the Lonely Tombstone.
No, I don't think it's that bad.
It's like you know you're trying, but the stuff you're trying with just sucks.
Yeah. Moving on from that is we have Candlekeep Mysteries.
Okay, it's okay. It's okay. Candlekeep Mysteries is just okay. This is another anthology book where it's 17 different adventures where you can either have it be that this starts in Candlekeep and the players go around and solve these different mysteries themed around books that they read on in Candlekeep, where they're all themed on books. But alternatively, you can also do it like it's say you're reading like serialization, like it's a bunch of like kids or somebody in a library reading books, and like the characters are like the player characters are characters in the books going around on these different adventures.
That's kind
where
of
I prefer that framing device.
Yeah.
And all these adventures are okay. None of them are really exceptional. I mean, they're all fine. Not all of them are made equal. They're all themed around mysteries where read the party that you're playing this with. If you're playing this with a bunch of boneheads that just want to do combat, or nothing but roleplay, and aren't going to ask the right questions, aren't actually going to do investigation, are going to rely too heavily on skill checks, I think skill checks hold this game back. Where I think if you were to actually describe the room and describe like different details you see in there, and get descriptive and have your players ask questions instead of just rolling, this will lead to a better time.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, it's weird. It's a book where you have to interact as little as possible with the mechanics of D&D in order to make it stand out.
Yeah. That's kind of odd. I mean, my sister and her friend have a friend of theirs who ran, I think, a Pathfinder, or no, not Pathfinder. I think it was just like another 5e game. But she refused to like elaborate on a setting and your immediate surroundings without a perception roll, and then she would just leave you completely clueless as to what to do. And I feel like that could happen a lot with Candlekeep.
Yeah, you need a good dungeon master and you need a good player group in order to run this. And I've watched a live play of this. I've never been a player in it, but I've watched a live play of it, and the live play was made up of a good team, where props to that dungeon master for keeping conversation going at all times, or there was never a quiet moment in that game. And I'm going to say this is mid, but it's like a high mid, because the fault of the game comes more for the inept players or an inept dungeon master, where there's nothing that wrong with the game itself, but it requires a level of execution that your average schlubby D&D player might not be able to do.
Yep. So, moving on from that, I have to post this one in chat because it's kind of hard to read because for whatever reason the image is at a 45-degree angle. We have Acquisitions Incorporated.
There's a little adventure you can do in that book where it's more about running a company in Phandalin, and with the company rules already presented in Acquisitions Incorporated, it's good. It's good. It's just good.
My sister intends to take little bits and pieces of AC Inc. and put that into Strahd in order to break up the dread and tension of the game a little bit. Give us something a little bit different to do, which I hope will
You get
do
to run
that.
a company.
What's up?
You get to run a company.
Yeah, I imagine that's going to happen when we get to the actual village. Which, you know, I haven't played it yet, but I'm going to, let's say.
And it's all right. I mean, if you want to do a business simulator, it's all right. It's so subjective to roles. I can't really describe it in an objective sense.
Yeah. So
But,
mid
yeah,
then, I guess.
Yeah, just like just put in good, but like the lowest possible good.
I'll put it
Yeah.
next to Dragonlance.
All right.
Okay.
Oh,
this is gonna be a rant right here, and we've been waiting for
I'm
it.
gonna tear
Oh,
this
Journey
God,
through the
asshole.
Radiant Citadel. God help us all.
Okay, so once again with the call-out video, I'd like to say, fuck Agent George, you racist piece of shit, for making this. The dude got hired by Wizards of the Coast because he did a TED Talk about racism in India. Even though you're in America talking about this, I mean, why aren't you actually, like, I don't know, putting your money in your mouth towards the actual issue instead of, like, I don't know, preaching to the choir? But the dude had, like, this, like, smug-ass interview that he did where he said, Wizards of the Coast, we're the only company that actually cares about diversity. And we've done such a diverse team. He brags about not hiring white people, where, you know, you're fucking racist if you say that. Like, excluding any group. I don't even care if it's a majority or minority.
There's no such thing as reverse racism. There's just racism.
Yeah, like, hiring not based on merit, but based off of factors that nobody can control.
Yes.
That is prejudice right there.
Exactly.
And he talks about just being this, like, such a sensitive and socially just man. And he talks about it, and the shit that's in this book, I mean, I'm not paraphrasing this at all, but it talks about the Radiant Citadel and says, oh, this is a socialist utopia where there's no police force and everyone gets along and eats kimchi tacos for lunch on Tuesdays. And this is I don't mean gay as in homosexual, I mean gay as in fucking retarded. This is the
gay
gayest
is in the
fucking shit I've ever
third
seen
grader
in a
way.
book. Yeah.
This is what I think I don't remember when we said it. It was in one of our werewolf games, or no, in one of our werewolf videos. We're like, we're gonna do Journey Through the Radiant Citadel, but we're gonna be an orc PMC where we just rape and pillage the Citadel.
What the fuck is this? This is the most embarrassing shit I've ever seen written by a grown man. Where you talk about this like shitty little utopia that you wrote on your desk notes when you were in college, and then you decide you want to make this part of a product that I spent fucking money on. And it is so fucking stupid. Like, I want a full fucking refund for this. This is so damn embarrassing. And this is another anthology book where it takes you into all these different cultural backgrounds, because every level in here is supposed to be based off of an actual foreign culture that's not America and not Europe. We have Written in Blood, which is our first mission to take place in Haiti. It talks about voodoo, not the actual religion, which is a combination of Christianity and African paganism. No, it's instead portrayed as blood zombie magic. So, you know, offensive. That's one offense mark. Next on, The Fiend of the Hollow Mine, the first mission to take place in Mexico. The main villain is this fucking guy in a button-up white shirt, khaki pants with like his like keys and corn hanging off of his belt, with a sombrero, holding a chicken under his arm. That's the fucking villain of the module. Like a fucking like racial caricature is your villain.
El
for that
Segundo,
entire
he said,
modules.
my name is Pedro. If you need directions, I'll give them pronto.
Yeah, so this is a legit fucking yikes from me when it comes to this. We have our first mission takes place in China. You work for two different families that sell rice in China, and you're trying to stop them from feuding with each other. So, yeah, all that shit you talked about with cultural sensitivity. Why is your entire book based off of racial caricatures?
Yeah. Let me just do a 1-to-1 comparison. Johnny in 3.5 wrote the wrote The Tribe of Hindu Werewolves, based in India.
Yeah, the Summon Vayan.
The Samanvayan. And
Yeah.
John has done way more research than I would have ever thought into Hindu mythology and Hindu culture. And you said yourself in an earlier video you've actually like considered Hinduism as a faith to follow at some point.
Back, I found God when I was 20. I'm 26 now, and I remember having a long debate with myself where I said it's either Judaism or it's either Hinduism that I'm going for. I picked Judaism, but that eventually became Christianity over the course of 2 years. And for a while with Hinduism, I was legit looking into a text. I was looking into the difference between the denominations. I was looking at Shaivanism and considering that to be the group that I would follow. And I was looking at different sermons from the monks in the temples and looking into it. I felt like looking at the differences between what is sacred, what's heresy, and I gave it an honest look. And I've been reading about Hinduism off and on ever since I was 20. So this is 6 years of research I've put into this. And yeah, just because you hired somebody that isn't white doesn't automatically make them an expert on the culture that you hired them to write.
Yeah.
Because
Just
from the looks of it, you might as well just lied about everybody you hired. It wouldn't surprise me if it came out that Agent George just wrote all this shit by himself.
it would not surprise me.
And then said he got 17 different people to make this.
Yeah. It's the same thing with like Clan Book Wendigo in World of Darkness, where they actually, talk to people of the Nunavut Nation in order to make sure that their lore was accurate and respectful to their culture. There is none of that in Radiant Citadel. This book sucks.
It's books like it. I'm not one of the groups that is portraying this book, but I feel offended for you, and I feel like that's like a tacky ass thing to say, but
It's hard not to be after reading it.
Yeah, this is a racist book written by racists for racist players.
Yeah,
because
fuck
the
this
people
book.
that were demanding this weren't from the groups that they were at that are depicted in this. This was written for an audience of white liberals that just looked at the surface value of this and then applauded and said, "Oh yes, very diverse, very based, many ESGs for you."
Yes.
Oh,
I feel like I should make another I should just put another tier below it that just says straight up racism.
yeah, just like
Do it.
like flat out fucking racist, but like put
This
put
is
it
one
below.
module I wouldn't play.
Yep.
No, absolutely not. This is before we even go to the dungeon design. Where I'm sorry, did I use the word fuck design involved in this?
Yes, you
So many of these just fucking suck because it's just one room that you go into for some of these modules. One room.
It's not a
One room.
dungeon.
Not
That's
much of a not much of a dungeon.
I mean, here it is. Here's your fucking dungeon for chapter 3.
Parade route.
That's it.
The fuck
That's
is
it.
that?
That's it. That's it.
I could draw this in Microsoft Paint.
Yeah. You sure spent a
Could
lot
draw
of
this in
time working
Word.
on this one.
Good fucking lord, that is atrocious.
Oh my god. I also love that for the Aztec level that they do. I can't even be bothered to make actual Aztec people. They just use tieflings for it.
Was that made in Roll20?
Yeah. Dog.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that we're also forgetting Strixhaven, where I think Strixhaven is even worse and doesn't even deserve to be on this list.
Yeah. Strixhaven was in a different
It's-
list we were looking at, but we just didn't bother.
It's because there's Strixhaven isn't even worth our time. It's a waste of time book. It's a book that tries to be Harry Potter. It tries to be Persona. Instead, it just winds up being a massive waste of time that you can't even homebrew this for it to work because the way it's written is just impossible to run.
So that would just
And
go in dog
Davy
shit
Chaffee-
territory.
Yeah, Davy Chaffee already wrote a pretty good video about just how much Strixhaven sucks.
Yep.
So if you want to figure out what we think of Strixhaven, pretty much the video that he made is all of our thoughts.
Yes. Our last one for the evening, this is one that wasn't on the list originally, but John sent it to me to add on here, is... There we go.
Turn to
Enter,
Fortress
damn it.
Wheel.
Oh wait, no, not that one. I already added that one. For whatever reason, the link didn't
Yeah,
copy. Give me a sec. There.
Yeah,
Why
Turn of
does it say
Fortune's Wheels what it is.
message.txt?
Yeah.
Really? It just
We-
sends
we
the
can-
metadata. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah,
just put
so
up
we're
on the
talking
screen.
about Turn of Fortune's Wheel.
Where
I haven't heard of this one.
This is their book that they did for Planescape. And we have been asking and asking and asking and asking for Planescape for years. We wanted to see a Planescape book. Instead, we get fucking Furfanty, the module.
I
And
mean,
I hate this book, dude. I hate everything about it. I have nothing positive to say about this. This is the last book they made where they had legit artists make it. And this is just flat out lip service to Planescape. Because this book starts, the first mission starts with you talking to Mort, the skull that you have in Planescape Torment. The character that Planescape Torment was the game that changed the way I saw video games. That changed the way, like, what I thought video games as a medium could be. And Mort is in that game for fan service and fan service only. It defeats the point of having him in here because Mort had a very specific character reason for following you in Planescape Torment. Here, he's just here to be here. All of his connection to, like, say, the head of Vecna and his connection to Baator, all of it's gone. He's just here to follow you around, and he's your sarcastic, wisecracks, snide remark sidekick who just follows you around and just does nothing but make sarcastic quips. And there's no point to having Mort here, and that kind of pisses me the fuck off. And you go through the same mortuary that you went through in Planescape Torment, only it's half the size, without the interesting characters, without the tiefling woman that you can pay money to stitch you up, and it permanently increases your health by 1. So all the very cool design elements from Planescape Torment, you thought you were going to get that? No, it's gone. No, it's gone. Instead, you get fucking weird-ass shit like this. With this, like, cake lady that has nothing to do with Planescape, has nothing to do with high fantasy. It's just here to be here for no real reason besides it's weird. Oh, it's Planescape, so we're just gotta put weird stuff in it. It's a weird game. Lol, so random. Here's stuff, here's stuff, here's stuff. And this is another book where, like, just stuff happens. Stuff just happens. This is a complete fucking nonsense plot.
Big Mom from One Piece.
Yeah, exactly. This is what this character is. It's Big Mom from One Piece. Like, down to the way she fucking acts, too.
Interesting.
And, dog, I think the reason why I hate this game so much is because of how bad it is in comparison to Planescape Torment. Because the city of Sigil, that was a city that was gray, dark green, black, brown, and dark red. That was your color palette. Instead, we get the most fucking colorful maps you've ever seen. More colorful than they were in Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Behold, check out all the color we have and how it has no relation to Sigil as a setting. Here's a casino for you.
What the hell? It's like going from
Look at the
It's like the cow level in Diablo 2 or
colors.
Diablo 3.
colors. Raise the mouse in front of your face. Look at all these colors. Yeah,
It's so loud. It's crazy. Like, yeah, it's a casino, but for God's sake.
I fucking hate this map. Like, not even for it. Like, even in isolation, this looks like shit.
This looks like
Everything
it'd be...
about this irks me.
This looks like it would be like a Steam Workshop custom level for Hotline Miami.
Whoever did this room needs to take an interior design class because this fucking sucks.
This is so annoying.
Oh.
And this is also Planescape. You remember all the times in Planescape back in old editions that you went to Baator, you went to Hell, and not just Hell, but Gehenna and fucking what else was it called? It's the other lawful evil plane.
I didn't play Planescape actually.
Oh, dog!
I owe it to myself to play some fucking Planescape.
If we stuck with D&D Second Edition, that this would be something a saying to check out.
Right.
Acheron, that's what it was called. And dog, Acheron is so cool in concept because I was thinking, we can actually go there. that is a setting that's filled with gigantic planet-sized cubes that smack into each other and cause earthquakes. And that setting is constantly at war, and groups, the Orc Pantheon, live there. And I was thinking this is going to be so fucking cool. Instead, we get a reference to Howl's Moving Castle, where we just have like a giant castle walking around instead. No actual plane travel, no actual planescaping takes place in the Planescape Torment book.
So, I assume this goes in dog shit then.
Yeah, I'm so happy I wasted my fucking time reading this. Yeah, dog shit.
All right, and there you have it. I will save this list and upload it to the Discord afterwards. Yeah. But here you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You have the full, Galliard group, the roast of D&D 5e. In the base category, we have Out of the Abyss, Tales from the Yawning Portal, Tomb of Annihilation, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and Spelljammer. In the good category, we have Descent into Avernus. We have, what was the first starter set? The K? What was
Lost Minds of Phandalin.
Lost Minds of Phandalin, Dragon Heist, Dragonlance, and Acquisitions Incorporated. In the mid-tier, we have Candlekeep Mysteries, Curse of Strahd. I keep forgetting the Essentials Kit names. The Essentials Kit, what was...
I have it right here, actually.
This one.
The Essential Kit.
Yes. I forget what it was called. There. And then this other starter set here that I also forgot the name of, which is why it's in the mid...
starter sets.
Oh, Stormwreck Isle.
It's Stormwreck Isle and Dragons of Icespire Peak.
Yep.
Yeah, Dragons of Icespire Peak.
In the cringe category, we have Beyond the Witchlight, Call of the Netherdeep, Icewind Dale, and Ghosts of Saltmarsh. I feel so terrible about Ghosts of Saltmarsh. I really wanted to like that module. In dog shit, we have Princes of the Apocalypse, we have Horde of the Dragon Queen, Storm King's Thunder, Rise of Tiamat, and Turn of Fortune's Wheel. And then in Fool's Gold, and then we have the Fool's Gold's Vault, and Flat Out Racism.
Not to be mixed up with the
what
module that's out there.
Oh. There you are, ladies and gentlemen.
Full category, not the module.
The roast of D&D 5e, brought to you by the Galliard group.
Yeah, and this goes to show that this game is being kept alive by Homebrew, because there's so many modules in this game that are just so damn bad, and so many of them you have to put so much work behind, where really just go ahead and make your own game at this point. I mean, you've got the group at DC 20 already doing that. So yeah, other moral of the story, go support DC 20. Just give those guys some love, give those guys some attention, and the minute that product gets released, we're definitely doing a live play of that.
Firmly entrench yourselves. Good.
We will eventually return to fantasy, high fantasy like that, but it will not be with D&D 5e. It will be with DC 20.
All right. I think that tears it for this episode. So, good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
Have a good night, guys.
Everyone.